Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 82 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on another Wednesday night, 7:18 p.m. Powered through a little bit of technical difficulties with the audio on Ryan's end, but we're here. No problem, besides a little problem, I guess. Jersey numbers, we got Eric Tomlinson, Patriots legend, of course, Ben Watson, and Daniel Graham, just to name a few. There's actually been a lot of 82s in the 21st century that I didn't really remember. Tread Frederick, the only player to wear 82 for the Bruins in franchise history, and Johnny Laser, who played for the Red Sox in 1943. So, yeah, been a while. Don't know why anybody doesn't want to wear 82 for the Red Sox. Maybe a reliever, almost undoubtedly a reliever, or some random prospect with a random number. Don't get it. But we're here. Ryan, what's up? How are you? How is this
Not much. I was
Wednesday
going to say
treating you?
it wouldn't be a show without or with us involved without some sort of technical difficulties. So more of the same. Anything else? But not
Yeah.
much else going on. Obviously, a lot to talk about tonight. You have it in here that I didn't even realize this today until a little later about the Patriots stuff, the new coach they just hired, obviously Super Bowl reactions, some Bruins stuff, and some Celtics as well. Both teams kind of trending in the right direction, I would say. Bruins have kind of survived what we thought might be a rough week for them, and then the Celtics have just kind of taken off and surprised the hell out of the both of us. So a lot to talk about for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Celtics are 2-0 when I watch them. No big deal. Kind of all me. They should be thanking me. Um, but before we get into Super Bowl stuff, our last time probably talking about football first for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I'm going to throw out my mock draft in this episode, just run through the picks, not explanations or anything, just for fun, for the people, get the people thinking. Maybe we get
Okay.
some talk on in the chat. I might go a little bit in depth on a couple, but I'm not going to go in on every single pick. I will save that for the final mock draft when the NFL draft actually happens. But the first piece of news we have before we get into Super Bowl stuff is the news in the Patriots front office, if you will, coaching staff, promoting Matt Groh to director of player personnel. Groh started as a scouting assistant with the Patriots in 2011, worked his way up to college scouting director last season. Pretty good draft out of that. The early returns looking pretty good, even outside of Mac Jones. You got Ramondre Stevenson and some intriguing other late round players. But yeah, now it leaves a void at scouting director, but he gets a well deserved promotion from the sounds of it, replacing Dave Ziegler going to Las Vegas. Any thoughts on this for you? Like, do you like it for a guy that's um got experience scouting? It's not like he just walked right into the organization. He's got some familiarity. I feel like we're both probably on the same page that this is probably going to work out.
I would say so. I mean, I don't know a ton about the guy beforehand, what he did. So, but it's a guy like you said that's familiar to the team, familiar to the organization. So I can't imagine it's something that's gonna blow up in their face. Like everything I've heard today too seems like that it seems to be a decent move. So no complaints here.
Yeah, I really can't complain too much about it either. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's really not a whole lot to go into. We just want to bring it up. Anybody somehow didn't see it. The Patriots will surely have more moves um, to make in the coaching staff and maybe in the front office
Mm-hmm.
as the offseason goes along. But that's the latest for now. Um, but they've had a lot of movement so far, a lot of moving pieces. But maybe Nick Caley will be next. I think there's some speculation that he could be hired by some other team. Um, he's the tight ends coach, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Um, but regardless, he's not like an offensive coordinator or anything. He's kind of a guy a little bit more under the hood type, like position specific type of guy. So he might be the next guy to go. Maybe he sticks around. We know Gerard Mayo sticking around, as I believe we might have talked about last week. But if we didn't, I mean, we'll talk about Gerard Mayo in a little bit with the Super Bowl because he was
That was
tied to that.
surprising.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But how about that Super Bowl? The Super Bowl's 56 recap. The last football game of the season, the last football game until next fall or the summer when we get to the preseason, I should say. Um, Super Bowl 56 didn't go the way we wanted it to go. It was a it was a decent game. Like it had some moments that stuck out, like pretty much every Super Bowl does. What we come to
Mm-hmm.
expect in a big game, any championship, any sport. But it didn't like it didn't have that like wonderful Super Bowl feel that gets you giddy and gets you all fired up. Maybe it's because it's not the Patriots aren't in it. Um, usually when I think of exciting Super Bowls, I think of the Patriots. Duh. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but this one, like, even the announcers, like, didn't seem that excited. Like, the celebration wasn't anything crazy from the players. Like, Aaron Donald was emotional, OBJ was emotional. But, like, that happens. The picture of Cooper Kupp was pretty cool of him just like with his head buried in his arms on the ground, just like kind of in disbelief, soaking it all in. Congratulations to the Rams. I mean, they're a team that loaded up for this and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
How the draft and the offseason goes for them, we'll see what they look like next year. Lock could change, Lock could stay the same. OBJ might take a discount, but that's a discussion for the future. 23-20 final. Cooper Kupp wins MVP. Matt was right about Cooper Kupp winning MVP, not about the 275 yards that he made a typo on.
Was right about the 2 touchdowns.
But that, yeah, he was right on the 2 touchdowns. Shout out to you, Matt. But yeah, what do we think of Super Bowl 53 as I put the stream on my social?
I mean, I'm with you for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, I felt like obviously like it was gonna be the Super Bowl is always entertaining. It's obviously the biggest sporting venue of the year, but like same as you kind of said, like without the Patriots being there, and I even take it a step further, like you have to go. I looked it up. I feel like, and a lot of people I've talked to have kind of agree with me on this. Is you have to go back to what was it, Super Bowl 50, where it was a game where you didn't really have, and wasn't any Patriots involved. It really wasn't any ties to the Patriots or any ties we would have. That Super Bowl, of course, was Broncos Panthers. Like the last couple though, last year's Super Bowl obviously had the Brady factor, the Bucks and Chiefs, and then that Chiefs factor too. That obviously us being Pats fans, you don't want to see Patrick Mahomes win a Super Bowl and then of course start the whole Chiefs dynasty talk. 2 years before that, you had the Chiefs again, you had the 49ers, but there was Jimmy Garoppolo there to kind of root for as Patriots fans. And then obviously the previous 3 before that all had the Patriots to some degree. So I mean, it's a game. Obviously, if you watched last week's show, we were obviously excited to talk about and had a lot to talk about. But like you said, there were some plays here or there. The T. Higgins catch for the touchdown right out of the halftime show, and we'll talk about the halftime show because that was, at least I think, one of the better ones we've had in quite some time.
Oh yeah,
Like that was a big play. Obviously, there was some gray area there with the penalties. I think that's kind of been one of the bigger talking points from this game. And maybe has overshadowed, some of the players, some guys like Matt Stafford, like you said, the storylines of OBJ or Aaron Donald, stuff like that. Um, I don't know. It was a weird Super Bowl. It was okay, but it wasn't anything great. I mean, I know, the Super Bowl we had with the Pats and Rams a couple of years ago where there wasn't as much offense. That game, I feel like was, I don't know, at least to me, and again, I feel like it's more so that Patriots angle. Like, it was more enticing to watch than this one because there were some times in this game where it was like 3 or 4 drives in a row where it was just handing the ball back and forth on punts. It got a little stale halfway through it, but like I said, I don't know. It was a weird Super Bowl to me. I enjoyed it, but definitely one of the stranger ones of the last few years.
yeah. It just like it had those like classic moments too in every Super Bowl. As I finish, just sharing something real quick. Like there were some controversial moments. I loved that there weren't a ton of penalties early on. They kind of
Mm-hmm.
turned into a ref show, which a lot of people were pissed about recently. Oh, you said 3 touchdowns, Matt.
Oh, I
We
thought you
were
said 2.
close. I mean, you were closer than if you said 1 or 0. So we're giving
Okay.
you credit for that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you could have just acted like
Like he
you were
said,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
got
like
everything
come
right
on,
for the
Matt.
most part.
Give yourself some credit, even if you're telling a little white lie. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, it like that just kind of soured it at the end. I kind of lost a little bit of interest when the refs started getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
The missed face mask was pretty tough. It wasn't like a clear cut, like intentional grab of the face
Grab it.
mask,
Well, yeah.
but he definitely like it was definitely worthy of a penalty. Ramsey didn't even freak out. He was like kind of just in like disbelief. He's like, really? Like he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
screaming or anything. I'd be screaming. But
Yeah. Biggest stage,
um
yeah, you would have thought there'd be more.
yeah, and then you have Aaron Donald lining up off sides in that big play at the end. Samaje Perine running on 3rd and 2 instead
Horrible
of Joe
call.
Mixon. Just
Yep.
like you're better off going for a slant route or a screen or even
Something,
like
yeah,
a
that might have
even
worked.
like a wildcat run,
Mm-hmm.
like an option in the backfield. Anything besides that. Like Perine, like maybe if you're talking Samaje Perine from when he was in college breaking rushing records, going back and forth with Melvin
Mm-hmm.
Gordon trying to break the rushing record and succeeding at one point. I think Melvin Gordon holds it now. They went back and forth for a few weeks, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Random college memory. Um, but yeah, like he's not like a guy you depend on there. He's a depth running back. He blocks. Like
Yeah.
he's not a guy you rely on. Maybe at most he has like 8 or 9 carries every once in a while in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were just some confusing moments. Um, but it didn't have that. it didn't have that feel of like a classic Super Bowl.
Hmm.
I was really hoping at the end of the game to see Money McPherson tie it up, give us OT, maybe a thriller in OT, something
Hmm.
crazy happens, like a big catch or whatever. I would say big run, but I kind of hate when games end with like a big run at the end of the game, unless it's
Hmm.
for the Patriots, because it's less exciting than like a game
Yeah.
winning drive or like a game winning field goal. But man, like they clearly didn't listen to Pardon My Take whenever McPherson was on because he said he's hit 75 yarders before. They could have just let it rip, but they
Yeah.
did not. What did you guys think of the final play call on 4th and 1? I thought the play call was probably going to end up fine, but just too much pressure on Burrow.
The
It
whole
just
thing.
kind of
It's
unraveled.
the offensive line at that point was gas, and I find it funny that that was kind of the talking point throughout the entire season. I mean, it's still a talking point now that people I find kind of funny are bringing up. Oh, the Bengals have drafted Jamar Chase or taken Penny Sewell, like gone more like. I said this to a couple of friends of mine at work. Like, you don't get to the Super Bowl if you don't have Jamar Chase. Like, that's clear cut obvious. So I think that debate doesn't need to happen. But yeah, I mean, it sucks that the kind of storyline that followed the Bengals all season is would their kind of garbage sieve of an offensive line falter at the worst possible time, and it did. I mean, what was it? Burrow was sacked 70 times in the
Yep,
regular
I was
the
just about to
season as
say
a
that.
whole,
I
19
think
times in the
that might have been.
postseason.
Oh, all right. That
That's
was. I
yeah, it was
thought that was
70 times
combined. I
all
thought that was
year. No,
combined.
19 times in the playoffs. Like I saw a stat today that I have in the outline that in 30 games, just 30 games for Burrow so far, he's been sacked 102 times. Like that's and you saw it in the game. He almost injured his other knee. I think he has what an MCL
A
sprain.
sprain or something.
Yeah, so I mean, when he went down, I thought it was the same knee he tore up last season. Thought the Bengals were going to have to go to. I mean, maybe go to a backup. I don't know if Burrow would have let that happen coming out of the game, but you thought it was going to be another bad injury because of
Yeah.
his horrible offensive line. Like, and again, all the people that kind of argue that Jamar Chase was open on that last play, like Burrow was on the ground at that point. He had no chance of making that play. Not going to take anything away from Aaron Donald. Obviously, had a phenomenal game. I think there were some definite considerations he could have had for MVP as well. But yeah, it just stinks that, like I said, the problem, one overarching glaring problem with the Bengals came up in the biggest part of the game.
Yeah, and Matt asks in the chat, do you think they should have run there on 4th and 1 instead of passing? I think in retrospect you could say that, but
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a good choice in the moment. If
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Donald or someone else maybe were to have not gotten to Burrow as quickly,
Yeah.
I mean he did line up offside, so that's kind of why for a
Mm-hmm.
large reason. Even though since the offensive line is really bad. Speaking of my mock draft, I'm not going to get into it now. I could realistically seeing Cincy drafts offensive linemen in the first 2 rounds instead of just one.
No, they
Like,
should. They should load up on offensive linemen the way
yeah,
that things turned
like
out for him.
the way I think the second round could pan out. There might not be a lot of like definite second round grade linemen left at that point when they pick in the second round, second to last. But it's something they could consider. I think they'll probably go spoiler offensive line, and then probably like a linebacker or a defensive tackle or an edge rusher, maybe a corner because Eli Apple. But that's another position
Dude,
where
holy shit, does he suck?
draft round grades can change, but there's a chance at that point there might not be a lot of like second round definite grade corners, whether that's in the common common knowledge of people, common like thought process of how people rank players, or
Mm-hmm.
what they think of the player. But it's going to be interesting for the Bengals. This is a position they're not really used to being in, so we'll talk about that as the season goes on, and you'll see who I have them picking in the first round when I talk about that after the Super Bowl stuff. But back to
Mm-hmm.
the Super Bowl stuff. Um, you know, Another interesting thing about this game, we're still talking about the game itself, but I think one of the biggest storylines is was that it for Sean McVay and Aaron Donald? Maybe I don't think people really talked about Von Miller. Like Von Miller could ride off into the sunset.
He could. I don't think. 'Cause I think the
I don't
reason
think he
for that is
will.
because he hasn't given anyone any indication that he would do that. Compared to guys like Don.
Yeah.
The McVay thing, I thought was like a fake, like news type of thing. When I first heard that he was going to walk away if he won the Super Bowl, I don't understand why you would do that. 36 years old. Maybe
Broadcast
the
deal.
yeah, but I mean he's. I've
I
seen
think it's
people
gonna
argue he's
happen. I'm
the
like
top coach in
50-50.
football, but I don't
Yeah,
know. I mean,
it's a weird way to go out, but he probably sees Romo making $18 million and he's like, yeah, that sounds pretty sick. I'm 36. I
Mhm.
could potentially do this for like 2 decades or more and
Mhm.
just have money falling out of my ass crack. Um, and, be able to pay for my next 4 generations of families, college
Mhm.
and shit. Um,
I saw someone make a great point that it would be a horrible look for him to walk away at this
yeah,
point.
it
Obviously, with
kind of
the
would be.
talk of, like you said, Donald could retire, Von Miller might not come back, OBJ might not come back, so you're kind of stuck there. You have no draft picks for the next however many years. I got to assume they're going to be in cap hell eventually. Like, so if he walks away, that could be maybe like I thought it was a decent argument to make that it could be a stain on a legacy that he's put together the last couple seasons. But again, like I don't know why, unless he's really leaning into the same thing like the Brady kind of talk of leaning more so towards the family side of things, making him retire. Like if that's the way McVay wants to go, then maybe I could see that. But like the guy's, like I was gonna say, he's a top 2 coach in the NFL right now. I think you put him up there with the success he's had the last few years, right up there with Belichick. I've seen some people say, mainly on 98.5, that he's kind of surpassed Belichick these last couple of years. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I
Um,
would. In
would
terms of
you?
success, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
that's
yeah, that's
obvious,
fair.
but that's just
Mm-hmm.
what just wanted to clarify. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Real quick sidebar before I forget. I don't want to just wait till the hockey segment and forget.
Mm-hmm.
USA Canada women's gold medal game. If you're from USA or Canada or anywhere, just watch it. It's gonna be fun. The US and Canada women's players hate each other. The last time they played, they got in a bunch of fights. They do not like each other. It's at 11:10, so I don't know how much I'm gonna be able to stay up for it, but it's gonna be
Rough.
awesome. So if you're looking for something to do tonight, or you just like the Olympics, maybe you already planned on watching 11:10 p.m. tonight. USA versus Canada should be a battle. Like I said, they hate each other. So I said that before I forget.
Mm-hmm.
But back to football. Um, Eli Apple. Like we have to talk about him at some point. Um,
Do it now because it's
I
worthwhile.
mean,
I mean,
maybe the most hated player in the league. We know for sure now. I think we got confirmation.
absolutely, yep.
Like he earns it. I mean,
I
he
don't get how
earns
you
it.
can talk so much crap and then just never, like, I tweeted it out when it happened. Like sitting on my couch as soon as they lined up for that last play, I'm like, this is, you better guard that back pylon because this is, it obviously didn't get there. It wasn't a deep enough fade, but this is going to be a fade to Cooper Kupp. You might want to cover him. And I don't know what Eli Apple was like, just completely out of position on that play, but that's who he is. He's the prototypical, like, if you're going to talk all the crap on the planet, you better be able to back it up. And time again, he can't. He made what, one good play the entire playoffs? It was the play to keep Tyreek Hill out of the end zone in the first half of the Chiefs game, and maybe you can make the case. Like, I mean, that was obviously a huge turning point. But other than that, like, he got cooked on pretty much every play I seem like he was involved in. Definitely in the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. I don't know how far back I'm going to look in this postseason run as a whole, but I can't imagine he's made many other plays other than that one. And I
No,
think
he
it's
just
100% justified that he's getting ripped apart on social media right now by all the Chiefs players, just players across the NFL because it's horrible. He's arguably the worst corner in the league. I don't think that's too far fetched to say.
he's 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 close. I mean, there are some corners that simply never do anything good. Like he'll
Jawan
make a
Williams,
play
yeah,
every once in a while. Like
we have one of
yeah,
them.
like
Jawan Williams is pretty bad now that I
hate to
think
do that
about
to
it.
Jawan Williams, but
Yeah,
like
well, take a
I don't know.
ricochet shot here, but
Yeah, that was a big ricochet shot.
well,
It's okay. Um, Eli, I mean, I don't bring Apple back if you're the Bengals. He's a free agent.
absolutely not.
They had him signed to $1.2 million. Like, not a guy. I think they have big plans for the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. And for the Bengals, you simply can't have him matched up against Cooper Kupp in the end zone.
No, it's
You
horrible,
have to know better.
especially 1-on-1.
You double cover Cooper Kupp in the end zone.
Absolutely.
Jesse Bates and like kind of like drifting in the back as a
Mm-hmm.
safety, and Mike Hilton. It's very easy.
You would think,
But yeah, you would think that's exactly what I was gonna say. What are some
but
other things? I mean, Cooper
that
Kupp.
kind
I
of
mean,
leads
while we're on
in.
the topic of him,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what before we get to your point, you were segueing into
Mm-hmm.
best season of all time stamped.
Oh,
MVP at
absolutely.
the
Yeah.
end. It's official now. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he played one extra regular season game, but just get out of here with Jerry Rice. I don't want to hear anything about Jerry Rice having a better season. In what when did he play? The 80s? I don't even
I think
remember off
so.
the top of my head.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
70s or 80s, somewhere around there.
We weren't around to see it, so we don't know.
It's Cooper Kupp, and that's NUFD, not up for discussion. So
Fair enough. Well, that was, I mean, talking about Cooper Cup, talking about Eli Apple, all the stuff there, how we thought it was just obvious to cover. I mean, that was kind of the question I wanted to ask you, get your thoughts on, because to me, I mean, I don't want to take anything away from the Rams, because like I said earlier, obviously Aaron Donald played phenomenal. Matt Stafford had his ups and downs, but his last drive was good. But to me, I feel like it was more so Cincinnati kind of gave the Super Bowl away than the Rams went out and won it. Like obviously with the penalties late, like I know I don't want to put it all on like the Rams blew the game because the refs, sorry, the refs blew the game because the refs sucked on both sides. We just talked about it. The Higgins miss. You said it. I was surprised too. I didn't even kind of agree with you when you talked about how you thought the penalties were the refs were pretty lenient. I mean, how many times have we seen like the fight that broke out between was it Donald that ran Burrow and out of bounds earlier in that game? The guys were throwing punches, no flags were thrown, so I found that kind of interesting. But like I don't know, I just feel like the Bengals kind of imploded late on that. You have the ticky tack holding penalty, then you just said it. Eli Apple doesn't cover the best receiver in football in the end zone. The play calling at the end of the game, like Matt said, kind of interesting. You brought up the Pirine stuff about why aren't you handing the ball off? If you are going to run the ball, run it with Joe Mixon. Like I know people have come to the defense saying that Pirine was the third down back for the most part for the Bengals. That's his job to pick up that 1 yard. Like Pirine hadn't done anything in that game. It was all Joe Mixon. Like you go with your best player in that spot when you need a conversion that short. Like I don't know. Again, I don't want to take anything away from the Rams because they played well enough to win that game. But I just thought ending specifically like. I had it in here somewhere. The 19 play drive for the Rams, 8 of them went to Cooper Kupp. Like you should know, especially with OBJ out. Like Cooper Kupp's the guy, and maybe you give more credit to the Rams and Stafford and Kupp for figuring it out late because the Bengals did pretty much keep Kupp in check for the 2 quarters after OBJ went out. But I don't know, like wasn't one of those things where like again I keep bringing it back to the Patriots. Like you watch the Patriots go out and in Super Bowls and kind of win games with those drives, like you talked about, the big drives late in the game. Like to me, the Rams they put one of those together at the end and was helped by penalties. And like other than that, did they really do a whole lot that was like that substantial in the game? Like Stafford made his mistakes. They couldn't convert on some plays here and there. They couldn't run the ball at all. So I don't know. I just feel like there were chances for Cincinnati to kind of take that game and just never really could get there in the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, yeah, I agree. Like the Bengals
Mm-hmm.
kind of squandered it, not like fully. We have to talk about the no look pass because that's just like that was just so smart, and I didn't even like remember it after the fact. I was
Mm-hmm.
actually dealing with food poisoning during the game, so
Oh.
I caught a good amount of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't really miss much. I probably caught like 97% of the game, but
Mm-hmm.
I was a little like woozy. So like maybe I just forgot this in the moment, saw the replays. I mean, that's just great from Matthew Stafford because it throws off Von Bell because he doesn't know where you're going if you're obviously not looking where you're throwing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Obviously,
so
yep.
that was like honestly a rock star move by Matthew Stafford. People would be like at Patrick Mahomes' doorstep praising him if he
Mm-hmm.
did
If
that,
it was him, yep.
but it's just Matthew Stafford, so it's just kind of like, all right, we'll talk about this for 20 minutes, and then it's just
Mm-hmm.
another
Never hear from
cool
it
throw.
again.
Um, anything else from the game? Nothing crazy. I mean, there were some plays here and there, but we're not going to dissect the whole thing. We got to the big stuff, I think. The
Mm-hmm.
halftime show. Before we get to studs and duds of commercials, the halftime show was the best one of our lifetime, in my opinion. Some people would say U2. I don't remember the U2 one in
Yeah,
Prince.
everyone brought that up. I don't remember that one either. Like
I've never seen either of those on YouTube or live. I think the Prince one was before we were even alive. To
Prince
be
one,
honest,
people have
might have
argued is
been
the
late
top one.
'90s though, so maybe we were alive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the halftime show was awesome. 50 Cent Upside Down was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Dr. Dre and just classic Snoop Dogg hits like the next
Mm-hmm.
episode and still DRE.
Was
Just like
nostalgia through the roof for sure.
is unreal. Kendrick Lamar, the outfits and the hairstyles, they all had the matching hair.
Mm-hmm.
The backup dancers was a little interesting, but they always have weird things going on with backup dancers during
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. Remember the weekend? They all had like bandages on their face and red
Yeah, that was
jackets.
his big thing at the time.
That
Was
was strange.
yep.
Um, so yeah, I mean, seeing Kendrick live was wild.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, what else? Eminem, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were being mean to 50 Cent, how he's gotten bigger over
Yeah,
the
I mean
years.
he looks
Come
rough,
on,
but like
guys.
it's yeah.
Come on. Don't be mean to 50.
I don't know
Why
what
don't you
was
say that to
worse
his
though. I mean,
face?
the I don't know what was worse though. The people going after him for that, or the people, I don't know if you could say going. I mean, there were some people I saw that were going after Snoop for. I'm sure you've seen it now on Twitter. The
Yeah, smoking a
people that
blunt.
were up in arms. Yeah, that Snoop Dogg of all people was smoking. Like, oh, I didn't never knew that
Crazy.
was. Yeah, I know. What a
Huh.
wild.
Rain comes from the sky.
Yeah, the
Like,
grass is green, the sky is blue. Snoop Dogg smokes. Like, this is nothing new, people. I just
yeah,
found
I
that
mean,
funny. Like, oh my
if
god, he was seen smoking a joint before a Super Bowl performance. Like, yep, that's what he does.
if
That's what he has done.
you're outraged about that, you're bored. You need
Yeah, exactly.
hobbies.
You're
Like,
just trying to just find something to complain about. I'm with you
you
though. I thought it was a phenomenal halftime show. I mean, I like Eminem, so I would have liked at least one or two more songs from him. But other than that, I mean, I feel like it was more so, and it should have been. I think it was more so advertised as Dre and Snoop Dogg were the two obviously lead performers. Like they got the majority of the stage time. I fine with that, but I thought it was good all around. Like again, I'm with you. I can't never really remember back to any of the halftime shows. Obviously, the weekend one wasn't bad. Maroon 5 wasn't great a couple years back when they had it. Like the only other one I really remember is the Katy Perry's, and that was obviously because of the stupid sharks that she had. But other than that, like this is one of the more memorable ones. I think you'll remember for a while. I feel like.
yeah, definitely. Sorry, just tweeting something out real quick.
Mm,
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, really no complaints. Would have loved to seen Till I Collapse. That would have been awesome from
yep.
Eminem, or just
Mm-hmm.
like one of his like funnier songs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like like the real Slim
The real
Shady.
Slim
What are some
Shady
other
is the
ones?
go-to. Yep.
Berserk would have been funny. That
Mhm.
would have been like real off the board. My name is would have been nuts.
That would
That
have
would
been,
have
yeah.
been very funny.
Yep.
Um, underrated, underrated. Eminem song is Almost Famous. I love Almost Famous. Spacebound is another like really kind of
Mm-hmm.
underrated one. If they were to go like the less conventional Eminem songs, that would have been funny. I'm glad they didn't do anything off his new albums because I like Eminem, but his
Mm-hmm.
new albums are just like nowhere even close
No.
to as good. Besides Discombobulated on his last album, which gave me a lot of like old Eminem vibes, I really am not a huge fan of his new music outside of a few songs that I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but overall was solid. Definitely the best one I've ever seen that I can remember at least. I don't have, everyone by memory off the top
Mm-hmm.
of my head right now. But before we get into our studs and duds is back of commercials. Matt asked, why was there no Kenobi trailer? And to go into Star Wars a little bit for a half second here, um, I think someone made a good point. The first thing we got for the Book of Boba Fett was September 22nd, and then the next thing we got was November 6th. So maybe
Okay.
they're employing like a similar thing with Kenobi, where they dropped a poster like a week and a half ago now, a week ago, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they just wait like a month and a half to drop the trailer and then TV spots. Maybe a little less, but I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why I was like I was like 30, 70, like 30 being yes, 70 being no towards them actually doing it. They didn't end up showing the Doctor Strange one. Um,
Yeah,
that just
I
dropped
was
on
out getting
Twitter, which was a
food
little
when
weird.
yeah, I was out getting food because my brother's not a doesn't really watch sports in general, but he's one of those people that watched for the commercials for that reason. He was thought maybe you'd see a Kenobi same as you, maybe he was more so on the Marvel stuff. So we were out, I think, getting the food that we made, and my dad was in watching the commercials, and he called us in. He's like, "Oh, here's your Doctor Strange," and it was what was it, 10 seconds of the typical go watch the actual trailer on YouTube or whatever it was. Like that was kind of
I don't
uh,
remember that, but I'll take your word for it.
yeah, I think that's
Um,
exactly what it was, but like it wasn't anything special. That to that point too, I was gonna just really bring up before we do the studs and duds stuff. Like I said this with my dad watching the game. I'm like, I feel like as the years have gone on, we've kind of gotten away from like movie trailers and like TV show trailers. You saw what? I think it was one Moon Knight trailer that they had, and that was I think maybe 30 seconds of stuff you've already seen. Like there wasn't really any big movie trailers that I can remember. Definitely not any like Disney Plus shows or anything like that. So I don't know if you feel the same way over the last couple of years, as you kind of
yeah,
thought the same thing. There's been a diminish of just like, because I feel like that's what it used to be. You'd kind of movie theater, movie companies, stuff like that would have big movie trailers during the Super Bowl. You'd see like TV shows. I think there was there was a Bel Air trailer, I think, and the new Fresh Prince of Bel Air that's
yeah.
coming back. That was the
Doesn't
only other
really
one I can
interest me that
remember,
much.
but and
I
that
don't
was even
really
later in the game. I think that
like.
was like the fourth quarter that one aired. So,
Apparently, according to Matt, they did show it. I don't remember that. I did see it on Twitter, but
mhm,
it doesn't really matter. All the people that want to see it have seen it at this
yeah.
point. So, But yeah, they
We
have
did
kind of
get really
drifted away
quick.
a little bit.
We did get teased. We did get Ewan McGregor in another commercial that I can't remember what it was
Yeah,
for. I think
like
it was like
what
travel
the?
company. Yeah. I texted you. I'm like, that's
It
not
was
the commercial I
Expedia.
wanted to see him in. But
I mean, come on. Like I thought that might have been like, oh, like they're just gonna tease us. Then like
mhm.
after the second half, we're gonna see the trailer and like crap our pants.
Yep. Never saw him again after that.
I mean, I need it like ferociously.
Mhm.
I am more excited for this series than I was ever excited leading up to Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett. So I'm disappointed we didn't see a Kenobi trailer, but not totally surprised.
Mhm.
Into the studs and duds for commercials. As usual, I am going to segue into you to start it off.
All right, I will go for my 3, 2, 1, starting with the studs. I had a tie with this one. I couldn't decide which one I liked more. My three is either the General Motors commercial that had Dr. Evo, which again I was duped. I saw that on Twitter, the preview for it. I thought we were gonna get a new Austin Powers movie, so I was pumped. And then when I saw it was a commercial, I was a little upset. But I mean, you can't go wrong with Dr. Evil and that crew. Thought it was pretty funny. Again, feel like kind of the whole theme of the night, like we said with the halftime show. You just kind of tip into that nostalgia kind of aspect, and then it was a Bud Light seltzer. It was a hard soda commercial with Guy Fieri, which my stupid brain couldn't even put that together. That the people in it went to Flavor Town, were looking for the mayor of the town they were in, and I was like shocked that it ended up being Guy Fieri. But again, found that one pretty funny. Found that interesting that they kind of played on the mayor of Flavor Town nickname for that. So kudos to General Motors and for Bud Light for a couple of pretty good commercials.
Yeah, I'm updating the title right now, so sorry if I'm not looking directly at the camera and look weird right now.
It's okay.
Kind of
I've been checking out
multitasking.
the Celtics game that I have on my TV, so I've flipped back and forth.
I gotta fire that up. I also want to watch Eichel's season debut against the Avalanche tonight. My number three stud for commercials was the Your Cousin from Boston Dynamics commercial because I love Your Cousin from Boston. Um, he's the best. He is so funny. I didn't really like him at first, but then
Mm.
when they dropped the one where they're out, the rope swing one is like rope swing, canoe trip
Oh
canceled.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
he's like peeing in the bush. He's like, you gotta knock, kid. Like
Mm.
that's when I started liking Your Cousin from Boston. Um,
The
sorry, I'm
one
getting
with
a
him and
little
Ortiz
distracted by
isn't bad.
typing. Yeah,
That one I
that
can
one
kind
is
of
good as
tolerate.
well.
Mm. But I'll stick with the studs. We'll do all studs and then we'll do all duds after that. Make it easy. My number two stud commercial from the night was I again found it funny. I lean more so on the comedic side of things. There was an Amazon commercial. It was entitled Amazon Mind Reader on the article I found. The one with Scarlett Johansson and Colin Jost, where kind of going off the trope of like you say one thing, but like in your mind, in your head, you're thinking something different. I found that, like I said, kind of funny, kind of creative from Amazon, and obviously you can't go wrong with Scarlett Johansson. And I find Colin Jost funny watching SNL, so thought it was a pretty good one too.
Yeah, I didn't mind that one. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like it enough, of course, as I'll show here, to be in my studs. But yeah, it was solid.
Mm-hmm.
I had the Gerard Mayo tackles food waste commercial because it's Gerard Mayo and it was just really funny. Like if you're putting a guy tackling people in a house on a commercial, I'm gonna laugh and I'm gonna enjoy it. So
Lit up Pete Davidson.
yeah, that's very funny.
Mm-hmm. I
Butthole
found it
eyes, Pete
weird.
Davidson.
Did you
Um,
find it weird at all? Out of all the like, just I've active NFL players that decide to go with Gerard Mayo of all people. I mean, I guess it makes sense for the what the commercial was for. I didn't even. Again, my stupid brain couldn't put two and two together there, but I don't know. Found it a little funny that they had Gerard Mayo in a commercial.
yeah,
Um,
I don't really know why. Was it? I don't remember it exactly. Was it connected to Hellman's Mayo at all?
it was
Maybe that's
yeah, I think
why.
it was a Mayo commercial early. Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
I just like I was kind of like in and out due to the whole food poisoning thing. My brain was
Mhm.
kind of soup and my stomach was definitely soup. Um so like maybe I just that's just one of those things I missed. Um what's next? We're running through
Uh,
studs all the way.
Yep, I have my number one stud. Being the big Seinfeld fan that I am, can't go wrong with the Larry David FTX commercial. Um, this is kind of on the flip side of like what again, it was kind of similar to. I don't know if you feel the same way I did, but after like the second or third cryptocurrency Bitcoin commercial, I was like, I had enough of that. I mean, the QR code one was kind of interesting, but again, at that
Yeah,
point, I'm like, I had
that
enough.
was great cuz
Like,
everybody loves the whole DVD. You're trying to get the DVD logo to go in the corner when you're
well,
watching
that's
the
what I had to
TV
explain
in your
that to
classroom.
My brother and I were watching that. Both of the same thing. We're
Your
like, "Oh,
brother
when's the hit?"
probably never experienced that, did
No,
he?
he did. That was the
Oh,
weird thing is him and I were like, "Oh, we know exactly what this is." Now we're waiting for it to hit the corner. And my mom
just
walked into
didn't.
the room at the time. My dad was in there, obviously watching it. And they go, "What are you talking about?" We're like, "How do you not know about the DVD thing that you watch bounce off the corners?" And then
Our
and then him
parents
and I, of
weren't
course,
cool when they were
cheered
kids.
when it hit the corner. But other than that, I mean, the Larry David one, like I said, you can't go wrong with him. Found it funny. Other than that, like any cryptocurrency related commercial, by the end of the night, I was just like, I've had enough of seeing these. Like,
Yeah.
just it's a scheme crap. Like I know
The
there's some people.
5G too. The 5G is taking over the Super Bowl too.
Yeah,
Um,
but
my number one still was the Brian and Robin
that
McKeever
was a great
commercial,
commercial. Yep,
which was the first one that I
That's why I
remember.
forgot about that one. It was
It
so
was
early on.
awesome. I actually just realized I didn't put a little overlay here for commercial, so I'll do that. But yeah, I mean that commercial, there's always like one feel good awesome commercial every
Mhm.
year. It's usually with a dog, but
Yeah,
like this year it wasn't. Where did that go? I just put a little graphic thing and it's gone. Um
it's usually what's the Clydesdale and
yeah,
what's his
there was one this year though, wasn't there? The
I was
Clydesdale? They
yeah,
made
but I was
another
gonna say
one, didn't
that's
they?
usually I feel like the feel good one that you're talking about. Like this, that's kind of the main one. Can't even remember what is it. It's a Budweiser commercial, isn't it? Or what's
Yeah.
that? Yeah, okay. But that's why I feel like one of the big feel good. I was surprised, yeah, that right out of the gate they hit you with that one. But that was like I had that as an honorable mention in mine. Just really quick. I thought that was obviously really good. The Eugene Levy or Levy and the Brie Larson Nissan commercial where it's like a movie set. That one was kind of interesting. And then I don't want to spoil any of your duds, but I personally liked the Uber Eats one. I thought that was kind of clever how they did that. You don't agree, as we'll get to in a second. I don't know. To me, it's the dumb sense of humor that I have. I found it kind of funny that like people would be stupid enough to take the Uber Eats uh, literally and try to eat like uh, candles and shit like that. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I found that kind of funny.
Every year you need the inspirational commercial like this McKeever commercial to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of fire you up a little more, like the feel good
True. Yeah.
story. It's usually a
Maybe that's why they
dog
did
or
it right out of
something.
the gate. Then, like I fit.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
that's
mean,
the thing.
get the morale boosted.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe make people cry a little bit. Emotional appeal.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions, just quickly. Zendaya Squarespace commercial. I love
Can't go
Zendaya.
wrong with her. Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
very attractive, very talented. Not gonna
Mm-hmm.
sugarcoat it. Also in Spider Man. So like, yeah, pretty much not a
Hit the
weirdo that
trifecta.
watches Euphoria and watches naked teenagers in high school
No
and
idea what that show's
shit.
about. Yep.
Apparently, there's a lot of nudity of high school kids, and they're at some crazy high school. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no interest. You can
That and drugs, right?
you can keep it. Yeah, and
Yeah.
alcohol, like heroin and stuff. You can keep it.
Awesome.
Um, the Arnold
Okay.
Schwarzenegger and Salma Hayek Zeus and Hera commercial. I
That one was
love both
awesome.
of them.
Yep.
Um, especially Salma Hayek. I mean, she's just wonderful from Grown Ups to Eternals, anything else. I
Mm-hmm.
love Salma Hayek. It's like if you don't like Salma Hayek, you can just leave the stream. Um, and the Doctor Evil General Motors commercial, like you mentioned, that was just awesome. But I put it in my honorable mentions.
Fair enough.
Did you have any honorable mentions that you wanted to add? I know you don't have them in the outline. Oh,
No,
wait,
I
you
do.
do.
I have them here. I said the Uber
Oh,
Eats
I
one
didn't
that you
even.
didn't like, the Brian and Robin McKeever one that you had, and then, like I said, the Eugene Levy and Brie Larson, the Nissan commercial.
Ah, I
Found that
just
one kind of cool.
totally had a brain fart there. I guess.
It's at the very
Duds.
bottom or very top rather of the. I think what is this? The third page, right at the bottom of the. So kind of it bleeds into everything else, but
Yeah,
could have made the outline better. That's on me. On the dud side of things though, because I feel like I mean there were a lot more duds. I feel like than
it's a
studs.
tough year.
Uh, I'll kick it off.
There's always an awesome Doritos one every year and an awesome Bud Light one,
Mhm.
and well, maybe not the Bud Light one every year, but I feel like every year there's an awesome Doritos one. Didn't love the Doritos one this year, like
The
whatever
Doritos one
chips they
sucked
used.
this year.
It was just weird. It was like a little funny.
Mhm.
There's no Bud Light Night one. Like you're just missing an opportunity. People love the Bud Light Night,
Well, they
so
killed him in the last one. It was a Game of Thrones thing. He got
just
didn't
bring
he?
him back to life.
I don't
Like
know.
people won't care. There's no lore to this.
True.
Maybe there is.
That's fair. It's a commercial. It's not
People are
real.
strange.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, you want us to get us started with duds?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Doritos one because I had that in one of my dishonorable mention ones. Because I mean, like you said, usually the Doritos ones are pretty good. They're pretty funny. I don't. I had it as a dishonorable mention because I saw it before. I think on YouTube, so I didn't really count it. I mean, it aired during the Super Bowl, so I guess it's a Super Bowl commercial. But like, it seemed like every YouTube video I popped up that was before that. So I mean, one was tired of seeing it. Two wasn't that funny, wasn't that creative in the first place. Overall, stupid. My number third one, it kind of hits personally. Seeing that I hear this jingle pretty much every time I'm at work. It was the avocados from Mexico one. Again, commercial wasn't that funny, and then just like I said, from a personal standpoint, have to hear the avocados from Mexico jingle makes me want to blow my brains out because it's the most annoying thing on the planet. After working at a grocery store for 8 years and hearing it nonstop.
My number three dud. I didn't love the Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen one was okay, but like didn't it didn't sprint.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, now I have the hiccups. Avocados from Mexico just didn't really do it for me. The Dolly Parton and Miley Cyrus one was just bad. The song was bad. Like Miley Cyrus is very talented, and that song was just hard to listen to. And Dolly Parton, 40% of the words she said was gibberish, maybe more.
Sounded like she was talking out of the side of her mouth.
Word gibberish, but that's how she talks. Yeah. I think her English is getting worse as she gets older. No offense, Dolly, but it's just she didn't talk that crazy when she was on Hannah Montana, did she?
I have no idea. I can't remember that far back.
She was on Hannah Montana, wasn't she? Am I making something up?
I have no idea.
I think she was.
I was just gonna make a plastic surgery joke, but
yeah, yikes!
Way too much work done.
She's like a plastic surgery Hall of Famer.
Well, that's probably why we can't understand her half the time. But
yeah, she was in Hannah Montana. She's Aunt Dolly. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I haven't watched Hannah Montana in over a decade. So, you're number two dud. I had no dishonorable mentions, by the way.
My number two was another weird one. I had the Irish Springs, the Welcome to Irish Springs commercial. It to me just gave off like weird cult vibes. Like I don't know if anybody listening or you yourself have seen the it's Midsommar or the Wicker Man.
No,
the one with Nick Cage.
I've heard those movies are weird.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like same thing. Like you go to a I don't even know not deserted island, but like a group of people that's like cut themselves off from civilization, stuff like that. I don't know. It wasn't funny. Just like I said, weirdo vibes the whole time for a soap commercial, pretty much. So
yeah, screw Irish Spring. I don't use Irish Spring. I've never used it. I use Suave.
Yep.
I use Suave or Dove or Old Spice. My number two dud was the old LeBron, young LeBron commercial because LeBron James is a douchebag.
Hate LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like he probably went up to him and was like, "Hey, like." Let me just talk to a younger version of myself, bro. It'd be so inspirational. Like people love me. I hate LeBron James. Always have. Always will. That's the entire reason I had it as my number two dud.
Did you see that he tried to? I don't know. I mean, you could say hijack.
He tried to. Yeah, he tried to make the parade about himself.
It was his Mickey Mouse NBA championship.
He's the most self-absorbed athlete ever.
Yep. It was his Mickey Mouse championship from 2 years ago, the Dodgers World Series championship that was 2 years ago that people have already celebrated, and then let's take away from the Rams that literally just won the Super Bowl 2 days ago or 3 days ago now.
Everybody look at me. Look at me.
Let's take the focus off of my basketball team that's been dog shit this season and probably isn't going to win an NBA title because all the superstars out there can't figure it out. But let's go. Yeah. Remember this great championship that we kind of were handed because we had the easiest finals on the planet. But
yeah, and your team sucks now. Get lost. Exactly. You don't deserve shit.
Let's do a parade for me because I'm not going to win one probably for another couple of years. Yeah. Definitely not this year.
Maybe not.
My number one, you already alluded to it, is yours. For my duds, I also had a Dolly Parton commercial. Same reasons. The Miley Cyrus song was horrible. Dolly Parton... Watching it when it came on, like I said, watching the game with my dad, he said the same thing. He's like, I have not understood a word she has said yet. Like, if she has said one word in English, I would have been surprised, but it was just all around horrible. So, bad look on T-Mobile for that travesty, whatever they were trying to do there with that commercial.
Just a tough look to do Miley like that. She's more talented than that terrible song.
Stoop that low, yeah. You can't.
I thought the Uber Eats commercial was so bad, and not just because of how it went down. I hate Trevor Noah. I think
not a fan of him.
It's nothing to do with the show. I just don't like him. I've never watched a show in my life. Actually, we watched one episode. We watched one episode in one of Mish's class. Shout out Mish at Merrimack.
He's listening.
But that kind of reinforces it. I didn't like listening to him there. I haven't watched the show very much. It has nothing to do with his politics. I don't know shit about his
I just don't
politics.
think he's funny.
I think he's annoying. I don't
Yeah.
like his face, and I will never watch his show ever again.
Mm. And
I
now he
do not
ruined an
like
Uber
him.
Eats commercial for you.
And then it was super corny humor. It's like it was the only commercial that kind of made me angry. So, um yeah, screw that commercial. Um
Just ruined the
what
entire viewing experience for me.
so
Just
yeah,
one Uber Eats commercial.
that's about it for dozen of the commercials.
Mhm.
I don't think we really need to run through our every individual prop bet, but um you went 13 for 24. I went 10 for 24. So
Mhm.
you win. I don't think anybody
Yep.
cares enough for us to run through them.
Nope.
Um, and so we won't. Before we get to hockey though, and eventually basketball, I'll just run through my mock draft for fun. I might put it in one of, think, if there's not a text limit, maybe I'll put it in one of the little. No, if I put it up on the screen, I'll put it in the chat. Maybe I'll put it up in the chat so anybody who didn't see it can read it. It'll
Mhm.
be a long chat message, but I'll put that in after. But I'll run through it now. Maybe some explanations, quick ones. I'm not going to bog it down too much. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, it'll be between him and Ika McQuanu, I think, but I'm going with Evan Neal out of Alabama. He's a freak. He's just so good. Massive offensive tackle. You need to protect Trevor Lawrence. It's easy, but Aiden Hutchinson wouldn't be the worst choice if they go elsewhere. This is one of those things. I get excited about a topic a little bit and I talk too fast. Um,
I know that pain,
happens.
100%.
Happens.
Yep.
We're passionate. Could be Aiden Hutchinson, but like you got to protect Trevor Lawrence more than you need an edge rusher. Maybe you get an edge rusher in the second round. Speaking of that edge rusher, I have the Detroit Lions taking Aiden Hutchinson. Stays local to Michigan, in Michigan. Uh, they don't have a guy that's an edge rusher of the future. They have Romeo Quara. Um, he's not like a number one like stud though. Right now, at least he could be. But right now he's just not. But he's a good player. They need someone else to get to the passer. It's Aiden Hutchinson for me all day. I like him more than Kayvon Thibodeau. There's a little concern about Kayvon Thibodeau's ankle and his ability to fly off the line. How that could affect him in the future. But right now he's a very polarizing prospect. You'll see he's in my top 5. I have Ika McQuanu going to the Texans. They could easily go defense here, but I think Ika McQuanu is arguably, being considered lately the best offensive tackle prospect in the class, even more than Evan Neal to some people. I think they'd be really smart to put him in front of Davis Mills or whoever they have at quarterback in the near future. This is a guy that could be a cornerstone on your offensive line for ages. I think you go for it here. Kyle Hamilton. Some people say the most talented player in the class goes to the Jets at 4. The Jets need anything in that secondary. They have multiple free agents in the safety group as well. Makes a lot of sense. Kevin Thibodeau to the Giants. They could use another edge rusher. I don't know really how well Leonard Williams played last year. They drafted Aziz Ojolari last year, but I think they should add with Kayvon Thibodeau. Very good value at the 5th overall pick. One guy that could be considered for the first overall pick, but I don't think will go. At 6, I have the first quarterback off the board, Malik Willis from Liberty. I think the Senior Bowl is really going to boost his stock. I could see a team trading up for him. Maybe the Steelers. They really like him apparently. New York Giants with the Chicago pick from the Justin Fields trade. Now protecting Daniel Jones, drafting Charles Cross. This would be really unfortunate for some teams, but Charles Cross is a wide range. He could go anywhere from the top 10 to late in the first round. I've seen of people that I respect their opinions to consider him a top 10 prospect. I think the Giants will be smart to draft him or Tyler Linderbaum here, but it depends whether they want an offensive tackle or Linderbaum being a center. Billy Price is not a great center, so maybe it's Linderbaum here. But Charles Cross is very good. Can't go wrong protecting Daniel Jones or whichever quarterback you end up potentially trading for in the future. David Ojabo, very raw defensive end, but freak athlete from Michigan, edge rusher for the Falcons at 8. Jermaine Johnson, another Senior Bowl stud. He jumps up to 9 in my mock draft. I think a lot of people have him jumping into the top 15. I think over time, if he has a good combine, he could jump into the top 10. The Broncos would love an offensive lineman here, but I don't know if they feel the need to draft a center and Tyler Linderbaum. They could just do that because they want to protect their next QB, and he's very, very good. One of the best center prospects in some minds in years. Jermaine Johnson the second had a fantastic Senior Bowl from what I heard. Pairing him next to Bradley Chubb would be very nice for the Denver Broncos. I think that you'd add to a strength and an area on that defense you can definitely afford to add to. The Jets have the Seattle pick, another one of the top 10. Like the Giants, both have top 10 picks. I have them taking George Karlaftis, edge rusher out of Purdue, get another pass rusher in for the Jets. Um, Hopefully, won't become too familiar with Mac Jones for our sake. Um, Washington Commanders getting hopefully their quarterback of the future, Matt Corral at a minute, Ole Miss. I like Matt Corral a lot. He's one of my favorite QBs in the draft, if not my favorite. I like him a lot from what I've watched and read about him. But that could change in the future. I think the Commanders are definitely in the market for a QB here. I think they'll probably take one. Minnesota Vikings, Derek Stingley Jr. Guy that could go anywhere from 5 to 15, maybe even 3, maybe even later. He's a guy I could see dropping. Had a very good freshman year at LSU, but hasn't had as good sophomore and junior years. I believe he's a junior now. Sounds like a guy that had set very high expectations for himself. Has been good since then, but just not as good as he was as a freshman when he was a stud. Um, but I think the Vikings have multiple free agents in the corner group. The corner group in general isn't even very good. So I think Derek Stingley is a home run here if he drops 212 to the Minnesota Vikings. Garrett Wilson, some people would say, is the best receiver in the draft. He's The receivers are very weird in this draft. Nobody knows when they're going to get drafted. You'll see some receivers going 13. You'll have them, to the Browns here, going 8 to the Falcons, or they'll be late first round, mid first round, early second round. Nobody knows where the receivers are going to go right now. But I'm going with Garrett Wilson to the Browns. They trade OBJ. They need a receiver. Baltimore Ravens, Tyler Linderbaum, top center of the draft, best in years. They need to protect Lamar Jackson. He wasn't healthy last year. I think Matt Skura is a free agent or either getting old, one of the two. Tyler Linderbaum would be a slam dunk here for the Ravens to protect Lamar Jackson. The Eagles with 3 first-round picks. Their first, belonging to Miami, Devin Lloyd, arguably the best linebacker in the draft. Their defense sucks. They need help. They doubled down with Indy's pick, drafting Jordan Davis, arguably the best run stopper. Okay, I'm mixing up the words. I'm talking fast again. Stopper, the best run stopper. In the draft,
Or
Jordan
stop.
Davis.
They both work.
If he drops to the Patriots, I think Bill Belichick will take him in a heartbeat, but I don't think he will. I think the Eagles or the Chargers will take him in the 15 to 17 range. Speaking of the Chargers, at 17, I have them taking Trayvon Walker, a guy that can line up inside the defensive line or on the edge. Very explosive. What you expect in a first rounder. Trayvon Walker on that stud Georgia defense, back to back Georgia picks. I have the Saints in their mind, hopefully getting the QB of the future. I think Kenny Pickett can be fairly solid with Kenny Pickett at 18. New coach, probably going to want a QB or a potential number 1 receiver. Don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas. I like this pick for the Saints. Sauce Gardner at 19 to the Eagles with their own pick is ridiculous value. I think he could go much higher. I think he could be in the market to be drafted by the Panthers at 6th overall. Stephon Gilmore is going to be around forever. J.C. Horn got hurt last year. Why not add another piece to the secondary with Horn, Gilmore, and Jeremy Chin at safety for the Panthers? But I have him dropping. I think the Panthers could absolutely draft a QB. Might change that, but I have Sauce Gardner giving the Eagles insane value, arguably the best, second best, first best corner in the draft. Um, Best secondary player, I'd say, is Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, but Sauce Gardner at 19 is crazy. Desmond Ritter to the Steelers, getting their QB. Guy could go in the first or second round. Nobody knows. N'Kobe Dean is just a Patriots match made in heaven. Belichick is going to love, and I'm sure already does, love that Georgia defense. A guy you could argue is just as good, if not better, than Devin Lloyd, who I had going 15th to the Eagles. N'Kobe Dean. If Belichick can snag someone on defense, even Quay Walker, who I have going in the second round, which I'm not going to go through today, I could see Belichick even going for him if Lloyd or Dean are off the board. N'Kobe Dean would be a slam dunk. Potential defensive captain someday. The Patriots need a linebacker. I think this kid's a stud. I think he's absolutely going to be a stud wherever he goes. I think it'd be a slam dunk. Chris Olave to the Raiders. They need help at receiver. It's pretty easy. Another guy you can make the case is the best in the class. I don't think he is, but Traylon Burks, another receiver, going to the Cardinals. Probably going to lose Christian Kirk. Probably going to lose AJ Green in free agency. Give Kyler another weapon or draft him a lineman. Either one. Kenyon Green going to the Cowboys. they have a good offensive line, but I feel like a lot of their linemen are old. Kenyon Green could slot in at guard and give them an upgrade for Dak Prescott. Andrew Booth Jr. to the Bills at 25. Trent McDuffie, Booth Jr. is a corner for anybody who doesn't know. The Bills need another corner besides Tre'Davious White, who got hurt. I think Andrew Booth Jr. would be a fantastic fit. Trent McDuffie to the Tennessee Titans at 26. Just not a huge fan of their secondary, to be honest. They drafted Caleb Farley last year, but he didn't really have a huge year for what I saw. So, why not add another guy? Caleb Farley dealt with injury problems in his draft year, too, so you never know if he's going to be able to stay healthy. We talked about that last year, even. The Tampa Bay Bucks. Drake London makes so much sense for the Bucks here. They don't have great tight ends, so why not add a third awesome receiver if you can keep Chris Godwin? Got Drake London, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. You're in business for your next QB. Drake London, the biggest receiver that I know of in the class, 6'5" stud out of USC. Jamison Williams, who could easily go with that Bucks pick as well, going to the Packers. Um, it's one of those things where the ACL really shouldn't scare you that much. Like, he's going to be fully recovered by that point. It's something you keep in the back of your mind. But for the Packers, who are trying to build up weapons for Aaron Rodgers if they keep him, or their QB of the future, Jamison Williams is a potential number one receiver. I think they should absolutely be in the market for him here if he's available. The Dolphins from San Fran, from the pick they acquired, one of the first round picks they acquired in the trade they made last year.
Hmm.
Uh, Miami and San Fran. Bernhard Raymond, a guy that I'm pretty sure started playing offensive line like 2 or 3 years ago, and he's just a beast. He's like 6'7", 6'8" out of Central Michigan. They need another guy, I think, to protect Tua. Pretty easy decision. This guy's a monster. Daxton Hill to the Chiefs at 30. The Chiefs, I think they could use help at anywhere in the secondary. A little upgrade. Daxton Hill is very good safety, one of the better in the class. Trevor Penning helping out Joe Burrow out of Northern Iowa on the offensive line, offensive tackle, could play either tackle spot. And Roger McCreary finishing out the first round to the Lions with a pick from the Rams, a corner out of Auburn. They just need any help from that secondary. They got to build with another piece amongst Amani Oruwariye, who had an awesome year, and others. So I think Roger McCreary would be a nice piece, a guy that could definitely go a little higher, really good value to the Lions. So I love that. Not going to go through the second round. We'll save that for another day. That would also just take too long.
Hmm.
We'll put that on the back burner. I will say for Patriots fans though, I'll give 1 second round pick. I have Darian Kendrick from Georgia, the transfer from Clemson. Pretty good year at Georgia. Belichick has probably watched the shit out of that Georgia defense. They need linebacker. They need corner. Darian Kendrick, second, third round guy, probably, maybe late first. But I think Belichick would be happy with Darian Kendrick here or a receiver at pick 54 in the second round. But like I said, not going to run through the whole thing. If Kyler Gordon were to drop there too, that's another corner I think they would be interested in.
Hmm.
But yeah, any thoughts on those picks? Anything you know about like certain guys or certain teams you think they should go in a different direction?
Oh, I compared to last year's draft, I know nothing about this one, so I
It's
will have to do.
early.
I'll have to do my homework on it. But I'm glad you agree with me that I think the Patriots' number one need, or number one and number two need, is linebacker and corner. I've still seen some people that say they should take a receiver in the first round, which I think would be a mistake. Just going off of, like I said, glaring need right now, and oh, by the way, the track record the Patriots have had of drafting a receiver in the first round. I'm not gonna. Hopefully, they won't make the same mistake they made with obviously N'Keal Harry. But again, like, you need linebackers, you need corners. That's 1A, 1B if you're me going into the draft, and then you can maybe steal a receiver late in the draft somewhere, middle of the round, something along the lines of that. But
Yeah. I'll say this though. Um, if they get to a point where John Mechie is following enough in the second round where they feel
that's it.
comfortable
Yeah.
enough to trade up, I think they will trade up for John Mechie.
Okay.
More likely
That's a
than
name I
not.
take a flyer on. Yeah.
Mac Jones, has a relationship with him. Belichick knows tons about Alabama. Mechie did get hurt this year. But if Belichick wants a receiver bad enough and wants a guy that knows Mac, I could absolutely see him trading up for John Mechie. You know, anywhere like past the 40th pick. I don't know if he'd trade up into the top 40. Um, but they got pick 54. Might not cost all that much to get a potential awesome receiver.
Hmm.
Something I could see Belichick doing, but I think from what I've gathered so far, the corner talent kind of drops off after certain guys in the second round. So I'd love to see them get one in the second round, if not the first. The linebackers hold up a little bit better from what I've seen. So maybe they
Mhm.
go corner then linebacker. We'll see. We'll talk about the draft more as we go along. But we do have one comment from Matt here. Pat should go for an O lineman in the second round after a defensive player. I agree. Like if they don't go corner after a defensive player or linebacker after whichever they were to take first, I wouldn't hate an O lineman because anyone who listens to the show consistently enough knows how I feel about Isaiah Wynn. So
Mhm.
also, I mean, like Trent Brown might not be around for much longer
Well,
after
that's what I
this
was
year
gonna.
or
I was
after
trying to
his
figure
next
out.
contract. So yeah, even in the third round, Matt, they could go with a lineman. That could
Mhm.
work. Like Rasheed Walker, if he were to drop to them, that's one name I think could be available in the third round. Maybe haven't
Mhm.
done that deep of diving on the offensive line yet, in like the third and fourth rounds and stuff. But
Mhm.
yeah, maybe they go for offensive line in the third round. I'd be totally cool with that. Um, maybe a receiver. But what were you gonna say about the O line?
No, the only thing I was gonna say is I just was trying to figure out where they would need an offensive lineman, but I forgot obviously that Brown is up for a contract, and then like we said, obviously, but we both can't stand Isaiah Wynn. But I mean, like I said again, it comes back to me is you need like I'll put up with one more year of Wynn if you can go out and get a stud linebacker and a stud corner in the first 2 rounds, and then like Matt said, focus on maybe if you want to go offensive lineman in the third round, I'd be fine with that. But right now, like I said, first round linebacker, corner, second round, whichever one of those two positions you don't get, you have to go after in the second. And then, like you said, if Mechie's the only name I really recognize when it comes to draft stuff. So if he's there in the second round, maybe like I said, you take a flyer on him and push off a corner or a linebacker till later on in the draft. If you can maybe see if you can strike some gold late, but like I said, it's I'm gonna keep harping on it until we get closer and closer, and then hopefully it happens. That you need, you, you saw it in the Buffalo, the playoff game. Like you need quicker, bigger, faster linemen and corners. Plus, you don't know what's going on with J.C. Jackson. So, like, if you obviously don't bring him back, then you definitely need to go corner within the first 2 rounds of the draft.
I just realized again I didn't update the little message on the screen. Again, whatever. That's gonna happen. I'm just gonna forget
Mm-hmm.
about stuff. Um, like that. We're getting used to those types of functions. So that wraps it up for football. Just over an hour of football, pretty good, even though the season is over.
Mm-hmm.
Now we segue into Bruins. Things have been expectedly a little weird for the Bruins lately, given the fact that Bergeron and Marchand have not returned to the lineup yet. Marchand did appeal his suspension today, but we don't know any details on that yet, unless stuff has come across Twitter in the last few minutes that I have
Do
not
you
seen.
think it changes at all? Because I
No.
don't really see a point to this, to be honest.
It's like 1 or 2 games max at this point because he's got
Okay.
like 2 or 3 left, but at this point I think they're just gonna give the book to him and be like, "No. Um,
I see
you're
nothing
taking
really
your
quick on
punishment."
Twitter.
Yeah, I don't think we'll probably find out tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
before the game against the Islanders. But the Bruins, I mean, honestly, there's good and bad. Just about what you expect, unless you're one of those people out there that might have been like, all right, they're just going to get crapped on every game without their top two players. I will say at points they just look lifeless without them. They don't have that same like energy. They miss that leadership on the ice clearly, and they just look flat a lot. They don't look engaged, and it's shown sometimes worse than others. But
You missed it
speaking
last
of
night in the shootout.
speaking of flat efforts, I mean, you missed it last night in the shootout. We'll talk about that in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that game against Carolina was simply terrible in practically every way. You lose 6 to
Mm-hmm.
nothing to one of the best teams in the league, definitely top 5. Linus Ullmark makes 37 saves on 43 shots, and you do nothing for him. 34 shots on goal for the Bruins. They were outscored 18-1 in a season sweep by the Hurricanes, so that's very bad.
Yeah,
Um,
not good in the slightest.
Brad Marchand's first game out, Anton Bleed steps into the Marchand role, not for scoring, but he just wanted to a piece of everybody he could whenever he could, which I respect.
Mm-hmm.
The guy's a pending UFA. He wants to stick with the Bruins, I think. He plays like it. I love it. Omar got shelled straight up. That's what happened in this game. Very unfortunate. Um, Got to play better against a team like this, even without your top two guys. First goal, Teravainen shot bounces up high. Trocheck cleans up the rebound. Tough one for Swayman. His rebound control has been better since he got called up, but he has had some tough moments. That's going to happen. But That's his biggest weakness. Still, he's got to improve his rebound control, but he's young. That'll happen. The second goal. I'll talk about Brandon Carlo a little later, but my God, am I worried about him?
Not looked great this year.
Horrible turnover to not Evgeny Svechnikov, Andrei Svechnikov. I mean, you give Andrei Svechnikov that much space too, nobody even could make a play on him. He's probably gonna score. Guy can shoot the puck, grip and rip it pretty legit. Third goal, tough tipped rebound on Aho's first goal out of two. Anyone on defense, they're in like good positions and all, but just couldn't slow things down in time, and they got scored on. Crappy luck. Could have been a little quicker. Last night was arguably one of Swayman's best games. Yeah, we'll talk about last night's game, definitely. But yeah, I will say, I stand by that. Swayman's rebound control has been tough, and
Hmm.
the goal
Definitely
he
has
let
been
up
working.
last night was tough with rebound control. But overall, I mean, he's been pretty good since he's been called up. So it's not to crap on Swayman or anything, but lots of rebounds on the Pesci goal. The ugliest one of the night to me. Everyone's flat-footed besides Frederick, who ran back and buried somebody. That helps, but sadly, no one else wanted to help. Um, Connor Clifton doesn't want to block the shot. Lets it go in. Doesn't play hard enough. Nobody plays hard enough. Everybody's puck watching because they're not in the right position or they're tied up with someone else. It's just tough. Really good pass though on that play from Jesper Foss to Brett Pesci. A little backhand pass behind him. Nice goal. Whatever. I mean, you're already losing the game at this point. Um, Crazy pass from Teravainen to Aho on the second goal. Carlos not quick enough to defend Aho on this backdoor. This is just a really bad game for Brandon Carlo. One he wants to forget, I am sure. Um,
Hmm.
and then you have the stall goal deflected on a rip from Brady Shea. No one went even out and tried to make a play on the blue line off the faceoff. You have Jake DeBrus going to the right point like he should. No one else did. Everybody just kind of backed up or watched it go in. So that's not good. Don't bother playing the defense off the faceoff. You lose, I guess. Like you're down five
Can't imagine
nothing. Might
it's
as
gonna
well
work
just
out too
stop
well.
trying. Like
Yeah.
they stopped trying at a point. It's an embarrassing game, and that's the type of stuff that can unfortunately happen when you're missing your two biggest leaders on the team at this point in time.
Hmm.
You don't have them keeping you accountable on the bench or on the ice with you or in the locker room. So that sucks. And that was another disaster without Marchand and Bergeron. We talked in December about that horrible game against the Islanders. Very scary game. Like gave me nightmares. This one was
Still
terrible.
have
Didn't quite give me
over.
nightmares, but
Hmm.
not literally, but you know what I'm saying. I don't really have nightmares that much, to be honest.
Not anymore. I
What
think
did
this
you
one
think
was.
about this game? I
I
want to hear
mean,
what you think.
I mean, I'm with you. I think it was just a byproduct of obviously the team knows they're not going to have the two best players in there, so it's not like they want to come out and play flat. But it's like you have a superior team in Carolina. Something like this is going to happen. But I was going to say to your point about the game back in December, like I feel like this one was, I don't want to say easier to stomach, but it kind of was because you kind of had the expectation. We talked about it knowing last week's show, knowing that you weren't going to have Bergeron, you weren't going to have Martian. This is a game you're probably going to get killed in, and they did. So I don't know, just going off the experience before of what it looked like not having Bergeron and Marchand, like you kind of knew this is how this was going to play out. You didn't think maybe it was going to be as ugly as it was. And like you said, with just some major lapses on defense from guys like Carlo, and like you said, the last goal, there's nobody playing defense. But I mean, it's a game where like I don't want to say I'm not too worried about it because, like you said, there were some glaring problems on defense. But like you're getting Bergeron and Marchand back at some point, so you're not going to have games like this down the line. Like this is kind of, I feel like one of those games where it's like, all right, it happened. You got your ass kicked in a game you were going to. Like you knew this was coming, so it's not something you're gonna dwell over too long.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina is just very good, and you saw that firsthand. And it wasn't the first time you saw it firsthand because you lost the season series in embarrassing fashion.
Yeah, you hope you don't see them in the playoffs with the way this has gone.
Yeah, they will. That series will last 5 games max.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Not what you like to see. Maybe if the Bruins make the right trades and they're healthy and they have Marchand and Bergeron back, they can
Yeah,
make it a
it's a different
series though.
story, maybe. Yep.
I will say this Ottawa game was so goddamn boring. Like, oh
That's
my
what the
god, you
Kind of happens
cannot
a lot when they play Ottawa. I feel
you
like
could hardly make a game more boring if you tried. But the fourth line, I mean,
game to
Frederick
play.
actually wasn't on the fourth line, but you think of him as a fourth liner. He looked good with Coyle and Smith. He scores the
He's been
first goal of
solid
the
on the
game.
third line.
He's good. He's good.
Yeah.
He's finally like getting some consistency going. Curtis Lazar almost had two, but the one that did count, he scores the second goal. In the first, that's where all the scoring took place. So after the first period, there wasn't much excitement because it wasn't a
Mhm.
game with a ton of high danger, crazy scoring chances. Um, Jeremy Swayman, 30 save shutout, pretty nice. Lazar had his second goal called back for goalie interference. Sold a little bit by Matt Murray. This little headset thing, the little volume adjuster is like rubbing up against my chest. It's annoying.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that got called back. Murray sold it a little bit, but there was enough contact to call it off. I didn't really have a problem with it.
Yeah.
The most disappointing thing in the win about this for me is Jack Studnicka got the call up and did nothing. He's a
It's
he's
like
still
that's kind of
he's
his
still a baby
MO.
deer out there. He played a little bit better in the Rangers game last night. You know, it was a little more noticeable physically, but he's still a guy in tough situations later in games. They don't play him very much, if at
Mhm.
all. They don't trust him. He hasn't earned the trust yet.
That's what I
Sadly,
was gonna say. Is how can you really play him? Sorry to cut you off, but like that's the
no, I would. You're
yeah.
fine.
Mhm. That was the one thing. Like it's kind of given that he's not gonna go out there because he hasn't, like you just said, he hasn't shown you anything that indicates this is a guy we, like you mentioned, we can trust down the stretch in a big moment. Like,
Yeah,
and it
it's
sucks that
tough.
he's never. It seems like he's never gonna get that chance because of how he's been playing. Like,
Yeah, he just like the puck skills that he shows in Providence and the shooting ability, and it just hasn't translated to the NHL level. He's a fine like player. He doesn't like hurt you when he's on the ice, but he
mhm.
doesn't help you very much. And that's why he hasn't been in the NHL that much this season. Um, that's just how it is, how I see it. Um, I think part of the reason they call him up is for a showcase, to be
How can it
honest.
not be? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know if there's anybody that's like still in the Jacka Studnicka borderline or completely untouchable train, but if you are, I think you're crazy. And that's not to shit on Studnicka, but
Mhm.
like if you want to get better and he's a guy you have to move, you do it. Like
Yeah.
there
Yep.
shouldn't be any hesitation. He's a good player, but I think he's going to succeed elsewhere. It's not going to be here. It's
Mhm.
just it happens. It's nothing negatively reflecting him. Got nothing against him, but it's just what I've seen from his development so far, and works in the AHL. But he's gonna be a late bloomer if he succeeds. It's not there yet. He hasn't put the pieces together completely. But it's not a guy that I'm calling a bust. It could
Mhm.
happen. It could be a good player, but he's gonna be a late bloomer. He's like 22 right now. I think still. He's got some time. So it might be 23 or turning 23 soon. Other note from this game: Austin Watson suspended 2 games for a hit up high interference that was called in the ice in the head on Jack Ashawn. Should have probably been like a game or two more if I were doing it, but it wasn't. It's fine. He got suspended. I mean, it's whatever. Ashawn thankfully wasn't hurt. Speaking of the Carlo stuff, I'll talk about Jack Ashawn and Brandon Carlo later. Um, I want Jack Ashawn in the lineup more regularly. I
Mhm.
really like him. I think he's very smart. He's arguably been the best defenseman in the AHL this year. Him, Jack Rathbone, and Utica, and Riley Walsh. Um, Jack Rathbone and Abbotsford, they used to be Utica, and Riley Walsh actually now in Utica. The teams that swapped places, or one team swapped places, and one became the Abbotsford Canucks, I should say. Um, those three are the best defensemen in the AHL from what I've seen and read on stats and watched some clips of. Um, yeah, I mean Jack Sean's an NHL defenseman right now, and if you got to bench Derek Forbert every once in a while, I don't know how they haven't done this yet. I'm sorry, but
100% down with that.
Derek Forbert, I discovered recently, has a no trade clause too. What are you doing giving Derek Forbert a no trade clause? I get if he was on the team for like last year or 2 years before and he
Mhm.
played really well, you want to give him a no trade clause?
Earn that no trade clause. Yeah.
Cool. Whatever. But like Derek Forbert, I
Again,
mean, the
John's gonna be
guy's been
making a bad
overall
decision.
he's been overall fine this year, but he's not spectacular. And he's one of those guys that when he's bad, typically in close proximity to the net defensively, he's
Mhm.
pretty bad. Um, so yeah, like you can bench Mike Riley every once in a while. They've done that before. You can
Yeah,
bench Derek Forward. You can bench Connor Clifton, who I'm surprised they haven't benched Connor Clifton for Jack O'Shawn recently, because Clifton's playing a lot and he's just not doing a lot. And
that's
that
yeah. He's just kind of there. I feel like
wimping out on that block shot against Carolina too, like he's not
not
earning a
a great
lineup
look.
spot right now. He's just there. Um, which is fine because he's not like sticking out getting caved in, which is good. But I don't know. You can live with Jack O'Shawn or Vakanainen too when he's back in the mix. I think when Vakanainen is healthy, O'Shawn will probably just get sent down, which is
Mhm.
okay. But in the meantime, I don't think Vakanainen's coming back tomorrow from what it sounds like from today and days past at practice and stuff. Um, Give me a Sean against the Islanders. That's all I'm asking. The Rangers game last night on the road again. 2-1 shootout loss. Crazy end of this game. Not so crazy regulation. Charlie Coyle scores early though. Nice get an early goal, even if it was a little butterfly. Uh, One that flooded over the best goalie in the league, I'd say. Igor Shesterkin playing out of his tree this year. Um,
Mhm.
Gets the assist from Craig Smith. Philip Hedel. This is just tough for Swayman. This is the one thing he's got to work on. Just he loses track of that somehow. It slips through and Hedel just buries it. Tough one. Potential future Bruin, Philip Hedel. He's a guy I think they could trade Jake DeBrusk for. Um,
Hmm.
trade acquire Jake DeBrusk for being the Rangers. Speaking of the Rangers, report today that they're going after a trade with the Canadians. Apparently, the Canadians like a lot of their prospects. So any NHL fans out there, maybe we'll see a Rangers and Canadians trade involving Ben Sherratt and/or Arturi Lehkonen soon. Could happen.
Be
Just
something.
throwing it out there. Ben Sherratt sucks though, but somebody will give them a first round pick and/or a prospect or a third round pick, like the David Savard trade was, because that's what they're looking for. That type of return: a first and a third, and 50% salary, potentially by a third party. Um, no, thank you. Ben Sherratt is not good, partially because he's on a bad team, but I'm not taking that gamble if I am any team personally. Just let him hit free agency. You do not give up a first round pick for that. Stop giving up first round picks for bad players. Let's end that trend,
Mm.
please. It Even if it's not the Bruins, it bothers me from a common sense standpoint. This game, Jeremy Swayman, 33 saves and 34 shots, set up one goal in his last two starts on 64 shots. Pretty good. 32 shots on goal for the Bruins. Um, Switch up the lines a little bit. Frederick Coyle and Smith stayed together. Oh my god, I'm talking too
The
fast again.
tongue
Hall,
twister and then some.
Holla, yeah, that too. And Pasternak stick together, but DeBrusk, Nika, Foligno line did nothing. Played Nosik Lazar,
Shocker,
solid
that
game as
guy did
usual.
nothing.
Yeah, I
Look
mean
who's on
Nick
it.
Foligno, dude. Like, I tried to root for Nick Foligno early on. I didn't like the signing at first.
He
I was
blows
talking to
too.
our friend of the show, Mike McClellan. We were playing Rocket League one night when they signed him. I was like, I'm not very thrilled about this Nick Foligno thing. I think they gave him a lot of money. He's like, I don't know. Like, not like a huge supporter, but he was like a little more positive about it than me.
Hmm.
I warmed up to it. I liked, his presence in the locker room. He was, having some laughs and messing around, like good locker room guy I've seen, but he simply is not good. And you
No,
gave him too much
sucks.
money. He was the guy whose offense is declining, and you gave him a lot of money for that, which didn't make sense. Don Sweeney, yikes on the Foligno and Forbert signings. I'm just gonna say that. I've defended Sweeney before, but yikes, massive yikes. Um,
Foligno has the feel of another Backus situation coming up.
He's
I don't
like
know if that's too
arguably
far
worse
fetched to
than
say, but
Backus. He's like Backus got really slow, which
mhm.
Foligno really isn't. He's not like fast, but he's not as like not lethargic, but he became pretty slow Backus at the end of his days here. Um, Foligno just doesn't really do anything
Do
besides
anything.
get in on the forecheck. His offense has dropped off way worse than I ever could have expected. Um, it's bad. Like really bad. Like I couldn't tell you the last time he tallied a point. Seriously. Like
I couldn't. Just looking on paper at that third line, it's like a black hole line. There is no production minus a shootout goal from DeBrusk, like on that line. And obviously, the shootout is completely different than regulation, doy, but
See, like
Like
they're
that's
not one of those contracts too that you can just dump because they both have trade protection. You can't just give
true.
Foligno in a third round pick to New Jersey or Buffalo or Arizona and say, please take this contract.
Help us out.
Like
We
they're not
messed
going to
up
waive their trade
again.
clause to go to those teams unless
Mhm.
they're unhappy or become unhappy for any reason. Don't see that happening. They're making more money than they should, playing more than they should. I'm exhausted watching them play. It really sucks. Um, Riley McAvoy on defense, they're running with that again. Don't like that. Grizzly and Carlo just aren't a great defensive pairing. Um, Riley McAvoy have been okay, but like Grizzly and McAvoy are better. Forbert and Clifton, then Swayman, Olmark. Power play without Marchand and Bergeron was McAvoy, Pasternak, Hall, Smith, Coyle. Then Grizzly, Riley, DeBrusque, Calafolino. You can't give Jack Stanika a little bit of power play time. Yikes! That just shows another situation they don't have trust. Not even the second power play.
It's a disgusting second power play.
Like, come
But then
on.
again, that just goes to show how the lack of depth that the Bruins have, and again,
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, it was a nice early goal for the Bruins this one. Another game, like not exactly like Ottawa, but there weren't like a ton of like high danger scoring chances. There were a couple good ones, but nothing that like really like blew your mind outside of a couple big saves from Shesterkin that he made. Lot of pass first. Too much pass first mentality. I didn't put up the Bruins talk thing. Whoops. Um, I'm gonna keep forgetting that. I'll figure it out someday. Um,
Hmm. Get used to it
you
eventually.
gotta remind me. Just if you can think about it, remind me.
All right. As
Thanks.
soon as we start Celtics, I'll give like some
Yeah,
sort
I
of like.
mean, exactly. Taylor Hall was too fast first like 3 or 4 times this game. They just did it way too often. Like it's a 1 goal game or a tie game all game pretty much. Please shoot the puck. Like, do I have to be Donnie from Boston? Like, do I have to patch my audio into Madison Square Garden somehow and
From the
go
nosebleeds, yeah,
shoot,
yeah.
shoot, or do I need to drive to Madison Square Garden? Don't want to, won't, but it's just a joke. Another one of those games like I talked about earlier where they just felt lifeless at times. They just went through stretches where they didn't do much. Another game from Jake DeBrusque. He made a couple like plays here and there. He had a nice diving stop in the neutral zone to stop a potential scoring chance for the Rangers. He had a nice scoring chance at one point, beating I think it was a hit from Trouba on the wall. But it's just a game like it's nice when sometimes the top scorers can't score. That maybe DeBrusque can come through. Maybe Charlie Coyle came through. Craig Smith got an assist. Maybe DeBrusque can step up. Maybe this is a game where Studnicka does something. Maybe Foligno does something. Somebody on the back end, but I'm not
Good one.
relying on the defense too much.
No.
The shootout went 9 rounds. Jake DeBrusque scored. Mika Zibanejad scored. David Pastrnak missed the net. Thought he was going to score. Not his best move, though. Artemi Panarin scores. Absolutely bamboozles Jeremy Swayman. But, it's Artemi Panarin. Guy's ridiculous.
See that coming, yeah.
Charlie Coyle, sneaky, nasty in shootouts, scores. Alexi Lafreniere, first overall pick bust. I'm saying it. Sorry to any Rangers fans. He sucks. Just straight up not good. Um, Eric Howell goes over Taylor Hall for some reason, who ended up missing the next round. Adam Fox misses. Like I said, Taylor Hall misses. Ryan Strome misses. Charlie McAvoy misses. Chris Kreider, Trent Frederick, Philip Hedel, Nick Foligno, Dryden Hunt, Craig Smith, all do not score. Keandre Miller scores the winner. We're down to defensemen. You're really going with Trent Frederick, Nick Foligno in the shootout because you're shorthanded. I would have rather went with Studnicka. Even I forgot to mention Studnicka in my tweet, which someone mentioned.
I would have tried
I would
Grizzly
put
over
Grizzly
both
or
of them.
Riley.
Yeah.
Grizzly or Riley. Like I like Craig Smith, but like Craig Smith in this situation makes sense because you're missing 2 of your top scorers. But like the guy can't score this year. He has no puck luck. Like I get it's desperation, but I don't know. Maybe if it was like earlier on in the shootout, I would have just been like, "Hey, use someone else." But I guess it makes sense later in the
I would have
shootout.
tried anyone on the fourth line outside of Frederick and Foligno.
Put put Bleed in there, and just have him run over Shesterkin. Like just fully concuss him. I'm
Yeah, I was just
joking,
gonna say,
but
finish
like
off the concussion that he definitely had. I didn't see the
no, he did
whatever the
not.
hell
He
the
does
play
not
was.
have a concussion.
You
But
didn't think
the
so?
spotter thought so, which I almost forgot to mention. Shesterkin was pissed. He went
Oh,
full
I saw his
Tuca.
reaction on Twitter, and
He
then
slammed the stick on the glass.
yeah.
Um, Tuca in the AHL, but that was ridiculous to take him out. I get, excuse me. We got sneezes, burps, and hiccups from me today.
Falling
Um,
apart.
falling apart, shambles. Shesterkin was pissed, and like I get it being safe than sorry, like I just said.
Mhm.
But there's 40 and a half seconds left. Like, and they put it back in the shootout anyways. They're probably like, all right, you're fine. Like he's pointing up at the stands and he slams his stick. He like apologized for it after the game. Um,
Mhm.
he shouldn't have, but I mean, I don't know. Like I've never watched him in the media. I know for a fact he does not know English very well, so maybe he has an interpreter. So maybe this isn't actually him that
Mhm.
said it, which is just funny. Um, they did a video for Super Bowl predictions, and Ryan Reeves came up to him on the ice with a microphone, and he goes, "I don't speak English very good, man." And
That video
he
is
might not
hilarious
even
of Reeves flying
yeah
around the ice.
he might
Playing
not
a
even
video.
watch football.
Mhm.
For all we know, the one when he chased Kreider around too. Kreider's a tough guy to catch, especially for Reeves, who's a bigger guy. Kreider's pretty damn fast. Tough shootout to lose. Maybe the longest shootout in the league this year. I don't know. Don't have it on hand. Not a dork who looks into that. Um, but any
Yeah,
overarching thoughts
it
on that
looks
Rangers
doing it.
game before we get into game previews?
No, I mean I caught most of the Celtics game last night, trying to flip between both of them at work.
I forgot to
But
turn that on.
I only saw a couple of things. Again, the big thing I saw on Twitter was obviously the reaction to the spotter taking him out. Um, and then I did see a video of Eric Hollis try in the shootout where he just decided to just go straight at the goalie, not make any sort of move whatsoever, and then just shoot it directly into him. Like thought that was a great. But again, that goes into the fact that you don't have any depth. If a shootout goes more than, let's see, 6 rounds, because you, like you said, you should have probably put Hall out there before you put Hall. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, like tough luck. Again, it just comes back to not having enough depth to compete in this. Like it was gonna go New York's way. It seemed like in the end because they obviously had more guys that could probably put the puck in the net than you did. So,
Yeah,
but
I
again,
mean,
they're
true.
staying afloat right now without Bergeron and Marchand. Like I'm perfectly fine with them being 1-1-1 right now, and you're getting Bergeron back hopefully within the next game or two, and Marchand's going to be back soon. So I can't complain. We talked about it last week. It could have ended up way worse than it has been so far.
Certainly could have. Looking at the week ahead, go stay in New York, play the Islanders tomorrow night. Still pretty bad Islanders team. Playing a little better as of late though, crawling up a little bit. They're not in eighth place in the basement of the Metro anymore. They're in sixth. Not gonna make the playoffs though. Ilya Sorokin, 40, 11, and 5 with a 2.59 goals against, 919 save percentage, 4 shutouts. Remarkable on that bad of a team, honestly. Corey Schneider called up. He's 5-9-4 in the
In a
AHL.
week.
In the AHL with a 3.08 goals against average and a 906 save percentage. Hasn't played an NHL game since the 2019-20 season with the Devils. Things have really fallen off for Corey Schneider. Hate to see that for a BC Eagle. Semyon Varlamov, who's currently in COVID-19 protocol, hence Schneider being with the team, is 3-9-1 with a 2.57 and 916. Doesn't really make sense that bad of a record with decent stats, but that's just the Islanders this year. They don't really make sense, but it's kind of somewhat expected because they lost Jordan Eberle and they didn't have a ton of high flight scoring to begin with. Kyle Palmieri is doing nothing in the first year of his first 4-year deal with the Islanders. He has 1 goal, I think, and like
Ooh,
7 assists, maybe.
that's hard.
Terrible.
Yeah,
Very
that's hard.
glad the Bruins did not trade for him after clamoring for it for a while. The guy is non-existent anymore. He's hardly justified being in the lineup. Um, Ryan Pulock is back though, unlike the last time the Bruins played them, to my knowledge, if I'm remembering correctly. Returned from a lower body injury on February 1st. He's only played in 17 games, 18 now. I forgot to update this. Tallied 4 assists. Um, yeah, that's a thing the Bruins had to be ready for. They didn't see him the first time. Now they see him tonight, tomorrow night rather. Ryan Pulock pretty good, but the Islanders, struggling. I don't think they're going to be able to catch up. He did not have any points last night, so it's 18 games and 4 assists. Just for my OCD, I figured I'd mention that. Mention that. Next up, you got a road game again against the Senators again. Um, 17, 25, and 4. Brady Tkachuk leads them in scoring. I forgot to mention Matt Barzal leads the Islanders in scoring with 31 points in 40 games. Brady Tkachuk's got 35 and 43. Matt Murray playing pretty good since he got called up, even against the Bruins when they lost. He played pretty good. 5.92 with a 2.69 and 9.19, one shutout. Anton Forsberg 9.8 and 1 with a 2.88 and one shutout. We know the deal with the Senators. We've talked about them a few times recently. No need to go in depth. Colorado Avalanche, nasty. Still very good. 34, 9, and 4, 72 points. First in the Central Division in the NHL. Nazem Kadri still leads them in scoring with 62 points in 44 games. Dude is going to cash out in the summer.
Still,
Somebody's going to ridiculously overpay for him. What were we saying?
I said that just it doesn't look right to me seeing that stat line for a guy like him.
No.
Like
And when they just have so many ridiculously good
exactly, yeah.
players.
Like if that was like
Guy's pretty
Landeskog or
good.
McKinnon, I'd be like, all right, yeah, that's obvious.
McKinnon
Like,
missed some time. So did Landeskog a little bit. So that hurts him. I'm
mhm.
surprised it's not Rantanen. Rantanen's been
Yeah,
healthy the
I
whole
completely forgot
season,
about
I
him too. Yeah.
think. Maybe missed a few games. Since November 11th, I mean, this is just bonkers. They
Mm-hmm.
were 17 and 0 and 2 going into last night in 2022.
Jesus.
Since November 11th, they are 34 and 2, not 34 and 2, 34
3,
and 2 OT
and
shootout
2.
losses. Ridiculous. They had a tough start. They have ridden the ship very quickly after that rough start. Darcy Kemper in that time going into last night's game where they lost 4-1, so they finally lost a regulation game in 2022. He was 10-0-2 with a 933 save percentage, 201 goals against, and I think they said he might have had a shutout too. I forgot to include that here though. Bruins kept it close against them last time, but this is gonna be the last game of Marchand's suspension, so he will miss this one unless it gets reduced, which would be huge. Bergeron will probably be back in this game. Hopefully he can stay healthy after the fact. They said on the broadcast last night he had a head laceration. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how he managed to get a laceration. Maybe something inside his helmet like cut his skull in a bad way. I don't know how that works. I didn't see anything. We didn't see any blood, but tough for Bergie. Glad he's progressing well. He wasn't in a non-contact today, so that's good.
I thought I just saw looking up quickly on the NBC. So the Celtics are at halftime right now. I thought I just saw on their update that he's likely to play tomorrow. Was the
Bergeron,
report?
yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of what it seems like, but
Okay. So
um,
you might get him back earlier
might be
then.
like a game time decision type of thing that they decide tomorrow, but they could just also say tomorrow he's playing, so we'll see.
Okay.
Um, I'm actually gonna turn that Celtics game on. I keep forgetting. Um, but yeah, that's like if the Bruins can beat the Avalanche, that's just bonkers. But I'm not counting on it. They're just so good. It's ridiculous. If they don't win the cup this year at this rate, like I don't know if they ever will. Even though I've
Like,
said I'll bet on them every year until they do it, like
mhm.
this might be their best shot they'll ever have.
I was
Even
just gonna
though
say I think it's
they
a
have
massive failure if they don't.
they
Like,
have a very young core for the most part. Like Landeskog is the oldest player in that core, and I'm not even sure he's 30 yet. Like he might be 31, 32 at the oldest, but I don't think so. He's probably like 29, 30. He was drafted in 2013, so geez, he's probably like 20. He could be 27 or 28. Oh my
ridiculous.
god, that's ridiculous. Like Gabriel Landeskog feels like he's been in the league for so long, and
Hmm.
he's 29. He turned 29 in November. He's not even in his 30s, and they just locked him up at very reasonable money for how he's playing. Might not last that way, but um, be a massive win if they beat the Avalanche. Not counting on it, but it'd be very cool to see. Um, like I clued out earlier, I hate to bring this up because it just feels overwhelmingly negative. But I mean, Brandon Carlo
Worth
just
doing though.
has not been good this year, and it's a problem because he doesn't have trade protection, which is good because if the Bruins were to ever try to get out from under this contract, if it gets worse, um, Brandon Carlo has been significantly worse than in years past this year. And it's like since this chart I'm going to reference came out, it hasn't gotten better in these last couple of games. He's not pulling his weight. It's the first year of a 6-year, $24.6 million contract. He needs someone like Torrey Krug with him, which supports my Jack Ashawn um, support, support, redundant.
Makes
Riley
sense.
is good with Carlo, but not like fantastic. He's not a Krug. He's not expected to be a Krug. Um, Grizzly has been okay with Carlo at times, but he's way better with McAvoy, and they're just not a fantastic pairing together. Um, it's time when everything is back to normal to run Urho Vakanainen and or Jack Ashawn with a revolving door with Brandon Carlo, because those are your best options. It's not Derek Forbert, because that line will be Stonehenge. They'll just be big freaking
Decimated. Yeah.
stone statues. Um, hate to sound negative saying this, but like, it's just me being honest. Um, Ashawn is more like Krug, but he's not exactly Krug. I've said it before. He's like a Krug Grizzly hybrid. Not to say he's going to be as good as those two, but like stylistically and what he can bring, that's what I see. A little like 50-50 immersion of the two. Um, Vakanainen has just proven worthy. He's played very good on the third pairing. Even the top pairing and the second pairing. He should absolutely be there over Mike Riley. Bump Mike Riley down to the second or the third pairing. He's played on the right before with Forbert. Or put a Sean there and put a Sean and Riley. Bench Forbert. Like, I'm cool with
I'm
it.
with that.
You got to change things up on defense, because if they trade for a defenseman, it's probably not going to be for another month or so. A little bit, we got a month and 5 days to the deadline. Not that I'm keeping track. I definitely am, though.
Counting down the days.
So this was from Scott McLaughlin. Shout out my former boss, WEI, when I interned there. Put this out last night. This was before, in the morning before last night's game. He said, "Stop trying to make Grizzly and Carlo happen." Challenge, because that's what they ran with. Bruins in 226 minutes with Grizzly and Carlo on the ice this season were outscored 10-3 with a 47.97% Corsi rating. Not a great Corsi rating. Not gonna like go into the details on that. But it's not a great Corsi rating. I will say that. That's all I know. Grizzly and McAvoy though, when they're on the ice this season, 23-9 goals advantage, 62.8% Corsi. Much better. Riley Carlo even 13-13, so dead even. Not great, not
Yeah,
terrible.
not bad. Yeah.
55.5% Corsi. Just putting it out there.
The
Just a
numbers
floater.
don't lie.
Then this chart, which if anybody wants to see it, scroll through Bruins Stats Media tab on their Twitter and you'll find this chart of Brandon Carlo. It's a little like line chart with different like points for different years. This from February 12th. It shows goals for per 60 in red and goals against per 60 in blue. His never been known for an offensive guy, but his goals for per 60 goes slightly down every year, dating back from 2016-17 to 2021-22. And when it was pretty good in 2018-19, around 1.5, the best margin of his career, it's gone up to like 1.7 the year after that, 1.8 maybe 1.6. Then we're looking at like just over 2.5, maybe 2.6 next year. So a huge jump. And then it's gone up marginally this year. So I would say, to amend what I said earlier, it really started getting bad last year. And we didn't really realize it this much. Um, it's coming to light now, and it's not getting any better this year because his offense is going down and his defense is getting marginally worse. But
Yeah.
I'll say this now, looking at this over the past couple days, it's getting more noticeable, like really much more noticeable. Um, you need to figure out how to get Brandon Carlo to work better. I'm not the coach, so I'm not going to throw out suggestions outside of what I've already said.
Hmm.
That's Bruce Cassidy's job. That's Joe Sacco's job. That's Chris Kelly's job. Anybody on the bench. Other news, just quick on the Tyler Toffoli trade. He was traded to the Calgary Flames for a first round pick from the Flames, a fifth round pick in 2024 that could become 2023 for some condition, I think. Prospect Emil Heineman, who's currently playing in Sweden, 43rd overall pick in the 2020 draft of the Flames. Pretty good. Apparently, Montreal likes him a lot, so they got him. And Tyler Pitlick to complete the Pitlick trifecta in Montreal. They have Red Pitlick as a prospect playing in college, Rem Pitlick, who they cleaned off waivers from the Wild this year, and now Tyler. So they have all three in the system. Um, goofy team.
Say so.
Bad team. I
Would
don't think it
also
really
go.
affects the Bruins that much unless they were to trade for a winger with term. But it does, reinforce the fact that good players are probably going to take you a first round pick. We have the first example of that for this year, outside of the Eichel trade, but that's way different. As I scratch an itch on my nose. Excuse me. Um, Another note: Vegas is pulling a Kucherov. It looks like Mark Stone's a long-term IR. They're probably going to pull that so they don't have to trade Evgeny Dodonov, Chandler Stevenson, Riley Smith, any combination of them, so they can accommodate
Sell
Jack
everyone.
Eichel and Alec Martinez off of IR. They're going to do what Tampa does. If they win the cup, people are going to go berserk again, rightfully so. But
Gonna have to change your rule, I feel like.
if this is in the league, teams are going to do it, and I don't blame them.
Oh, how can you not? Like,
Like,
to
it
get out of
doesn't make
jail
sense
free
if you're a
card with
bad
no
team.
punishment.
It doesn't make sense if you're a bad team because,
No.
like, you could sell off those guys you might have had to trade.
Yep.
Possible. Not always the case though. Some of these guys could have term on certain teams. Might be harder to trade, but it looks like they're doing it. It's gonna happen. You have to create a soft cap or a luxury tax, something like that. So this doesn't happen. And mess around with some long-term IR rules at the same time because team. I think this will happen once a year.
Oh, like I said, it's like you mentioned it. 2 years in a row, this happens. Teams are gonna see it. Like they'd be dumb not to take advantage of it. Like you're only if it's allowed, you're only hurting yourself by not taking advantage of a stupid rule like this. And like I said, if it keeps happening, the league's probably gonna have to do something about it. I don't see how they couldn't step in and not try to figure out how to fix like a clear cut problem that you've had now potentially 2 years in a row.
Yeah. That's pretty much all on that. Just quick notes.
Mhm.
Decent price to pay for Toffoli in the Toffoli trade, but good deal for both sides. Toffoli already scored for Calgary last night in his debut, so it's turning out well. Montreal gets pieces for their rebuild. They're fine with it. They're laughing. Not really, because they're bad, but like it's a good return. They'll be fine. It's just an
Mhm.
expression. Um, the Coyotes arena situation. Have to touch on this quickly. Did you see the video?
I have not. I saw. I think it was you that put a picture out, or somebody else of like a
I
shitty
put a
arena
picture.
joking about it.
I put a
But
picture of the Pilgrim. I think it's the B or C arena. It's like a small arena for young kids in Hingham,
Mhm.
Massachusetts that I used to play on growing up, where I learned to skate. I
Mhm.
put that out for any South Shore people. Got a few likes on it. Just poking fun at how like they're playing on a college size rink. It's so bad. They need to move them to Houston, Kansas City, or off the board that nobody talks about. Move them to South Carolina.
That's an interesting one. Kansas City's a strange one for me. I just can't see a hockey team in Kansas City.
But they used to have a team. There's a market. They like
Uh,
sports with the they had the I think they were the Kansas City Mavericks maybe or Scout yeah Kansas City Scouts. But yeah, I mean the Hurricanes are located in Raleigh, North Carolina. Maybe
that'd be a good one.
I mean you'd have to probably change them to the North Carolina Hurricanes, which I
Mhm.
don't know if that would work. But I mean a state by state rivalry would be pretty cool.
That'd
Not
be
sure how
cool. Yeah.
feasible it is. Not sure what South Carolina is looking like, or if they have the money they need or the the partners they need in business to do that. All that nerd stuff, but financial stuff, but
Going after the nerds
it's
tonight.
possible. Yeah, it's not personal. I'm a nerd
Mhm.
too. The most likely spot's Houston. I don't think they'll go to Quebec City. Personally, it's just a gut feeling. I hope they do though, because that would just be awesome for the league. They probably still have a lot of passionate fans. But that wraps it up for hockey. Another good hockey segment, as usual. Hockey season's going on. We're gonna have a lot to talk about 40 minutes there. On to the Celtics, who are currently playing, and after speed bagging a very good team of the Sixers, even though they were without James Harden, they're now keeping it close with the Pistons, which doesn't make sense because the Pistons are the like
Worst
bottom
team in the
three
NBA.
or worst. Okay, let's think of bottom three. I thought the Rockets were the worst.
It makes a little sense to me. I mean, this screams trap game, second night of a back to
Yeah,
back,
but
like you
like,
said, just
oh yeah, back to back too. Okay,
kicking the crap out of a really good team. I mean, there's still a quarter and a half to go, so I'm not too concerned yet. But like, I don't know how you could complain too much about the Celtics team with how well they've played lately. I mean, they've done pretty much it seems like everything right. We talked about it a little bit, the complete turnaround. Um, But then, of course, we had the trade deadline come and go, something that we, gave our thoughts on last week, what they could do, what they should do. I think you and I both agreed Dennis Schroeder was a guy they should move. They obviously did. Josh Richardson was a guy we did not think they were going to move. I don't know if you are,
Like
happy they moved
sorta
Josh Richardson. Are
thought,
you?
but like overwhelmingly no. I was like more on the side they weren't, but they
Mhm.
did. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a deadline. Like I said, a deadline. You and I both kind of agreed that it seemed like they should do something, invest in this team. I talked a lot about that leading up to the deadline. Where they were sitting was going to be what they would do, determine what they would do at the deadline. They obviously were winning going in. They end up buying. And honestly, I mean, I liked to say 2 out of 3 moves. I mean, the first move they made really wasn't a move. Just kind of, again, going through it as we sit here. The 3 trades they made, the first one, obviously, they move out salaries and PJ Dozier and Bull. Dozier was making 1.9 million. He ended up getting waived by the Magic, and then Bull was making 2.2. Celtics also traded a future second round draft pick and cash considerations to Orlando for a future second round draft pick in that deal.
Probably gonna be in like 2047.
Exactly. Yeah, it's we'll trade you a draft pick that's 40 years away for one that's 38 years away.
Yeah.
But I mean that was a deal. Again, we talked about it. They were looking. You could say they kind of did a little bit of both. They moved some money out, but also brought some money in with their next trade. This is a deal like a kind of who really cares deal. Like I said, it got him out of 2 players that weren't really ever going to play for them, and Dozier and Bull both were hurt. I had a friend of mine that was kind of upset that he was never going to see Bull in a Celtics uniform, but like again, that's just kind of like a little tidbit thing. Don't really care too much. The second trade they made was the big one, as Matt would agree that he thinks Derek White looks great so far. I would agree. This is a deal that, to me, blindsided the crap out of me. Came out of nowhere trading for Derek White. They gave up, as I mentioned, Josh Richardson. Romeo Langford, if you've listened to this show or just I've ever talked sports with anybody listening, I can't stand Romeo Langford. I never really liked him from the get-go. He ends up going out to the Spurs as well, along with a 2022 first-round draft pick that is 1-4 protected for the Celtics. Not going to get into protections because, again, we've talked about it enough. The NBA trades, salaries, all sort of wonky stuff. Personally, I like the deal. I mean, I a little upset to see Josh Richardson go because I thought he was a piece that maybe you could stick here. You and I both agree we didn't think he was going to get moved. But when you look at what they get back in Derek White, a guy that, they turned 2 years of Josh Richardson. He was extended through next season into 4 years of Derek White. Little, decent contract. He's making 4 years, $70 million. He's a UFA in 2025. He's a player that fits, though. I've seen a lot of people, and just watching him the last 3 games he's played for him, or the fourth being tonight, he's been touted as, a better Marcus Smart, a guy that, was a defensive-minded guy first, can give up the ball, isn't afraid to, spread the ball around, which is good. I found it interesting. People have kind of talked about they've brought back up Marcus Smart trade rumors now in the offseason of now that you have Derek White, maybe you can make a move
Why?
of Smart. But if
No thanks at this point with
yeah,
how
if
this is working. Like
if I
I'm
was gonna
good.
say if Smart is playing how he's played, then I wouldn't be opposed to keeping Marcus Smart. I know that's kind of crazy. I've maybe done a complete turnaround on what I felt like on Smart earlier in the year, but so far it's worked well. Like I said, I'm with
But
Matt. Derek
do
White's been
you
great for him so far.
do you think Brad Stevens would ever consider selling high if Marcus Smart and Derek White both continue to play pretty good though?
Selling
I'm
high
not
on
I'm not vouching
Smart,
for it, but selling high on Smart
I
with a
think
guy
so.
whose value has fluctuated.
Yep.
I mean, that's the reason I would do it. I wouldn't say just like, oh, like we want to trade Smart. That's it. Like
Hmm.
if his value is like through the roof and they could get a really good return, maybe you consider it. But I'm not rushing to trade Marcus Smart right now by any
No,
means.
not right now. I mean, he is hurt right now, which stinks. Like we talked about, he's been playing the best basketball he's played in quite some time. Now he rolls his ankle in Philadelphia last night, which sucks. Now you don't know how long he's going to be out for. But now that again that you have Derek White, he can slide into that role that started for Smart tonight and has looked pretty good. I couldn't really find anybody that was too upset by this. I mean, I know there was some people that were like, "Oh, the fact that you traded Josh Richardson stinks." The people that were trying to say like, "Oh, why did you have to trade Romeo Langford?" And it's like Romeo Langford can go kick rocks for all I care. Like
Dude,
if
like that's just like that's an insane thing to bring up because
mhm.
like Romeo Langford, I've watched 2 Celtics games this year and he's not good. Like I
No, he
just know that.
sucked.
This is the third game I'm watching. They're 2-0 in games I've watched, by the way.
Not a
I mean this
coincidence.
this trade is such a win that there is like zero bad that could happen besides if the first round pick turns out to be a stud. Like Romeo Langford is just by anything I've gathered, not going to
Mhm.
be a very good NBA player. Um, Josh Richardson is fine, but he's fine to give away for a guy with term. still pretty young, gives you
Hmm.
pretty much just what you need. Like, you don't need a guy that's going to score a bunch. Like, you need a guy that's going to complement Brown and Tatum, and he does, and he plays very good defense from what I've
Hmm.
saw so far. Um, like, slam dunk trade, A plus. Like, there's nothing wrong with this trade. They got to the luxury tax too with the Bol and PG Dozier trade. They got some money out of the books. They got rid of that loser and his Cantor Freedom. Like, I'm so happy
Whatever you want to call him.
he was undersold in my mind. I didn't even realize this. Like, I kind of like partially didn't watch the Celtics 'cause I didn't want to watch a team with him on it because
Hmm.
he's so annoying. Like, it is
He's a
another
destroy.
case like Trevor Noah. Like, it has nothing to do with his politics. I don't give a shit about politics for the most part
Hmm.
with anybody, but like, he's so annoying. Like, dude, retire. Like, you just got bought up by the
Yeah.
or waived by the Rockets. Go
Hmm.
be a politician or just like go somewhere else. Like,
Well,
he's one of
his
the few
NBA
people I
career is
have
probably
blocked
done.
on Twitter.
Like,
Like, he's one of the few people I have blocked on Twitter. Like,
mhm.
because legitimately would get angry when I saw him pop on my feed. Bruno Fernando gone too. You trade
Mhm.
Schroeder in that deal. You get Daniel Tice back, which is Tice playing tonight?
Yes, I don't know what he's been doing. He played last night. I think he scored 5 points in his debut. Did have 5 fouls because it's Daniel Tice. Um,
That's
I
a
don't know
morale
what.
move. That's a pure morale move. That that trade tells me that they couldn't get a first round pick or a good player back for Schroeder. So like,
Mhm.
let's just hit up Houston and get a fun guy back in the mix. That's I would 100% believe that is what Brad Stevens did. And let's dump two bums. Nothing against Bruno Fernando, but like, he's not a big time player on the team. I shouldn't have said bum for him. I mean it for Cantor. Sorry, Bruno. I mean
Tice actually
this
just scored.
like Tice
So there you go.
like
Right on
I
cue.
I love that. He's the closest guy you could have gotten to a big, like, sort of aggressive type, like, morale
Mhm.
guy outside of Aaron Baines, who might sadly never play again. And I still yearn for the day that Aaron Baines returns or becomes like an assistant coach someday, or like the enforcement coordinator teaching players how to like use the body because
Mhm.
basketball needs enforcers. That's a fact, not up for discussion. Um, Brad Stevens, I talked one of my biggest things was like, people are gonna remember this deadline and it's still gonna be criticized. I almost said stipulated for some reason. Um it's still gonna be monitored because like in the future, because people are gonna look back to his first ever deadline, his early tenure as GM, making the moves, pulling the strings.
Mhm.
He crushed it. He gets
I
an A
think so. I
plus.
don't know how you can be. I mean, like I said, I wasn't when I saw it was because you and I both. I think when we talked about Schroeder, we expected them to move him for like a solid piece. We didn't expect it to be. And again, maybe that's me kind of crapping on Daniel Tice more than you would because you're a bigger fan of Tice than I am. But like when you see a trade of Schroeder for Tice, let's forget about Bruno Fernando and Freedom and his Freedom. Like you said, two bums aren't really going to play all that much. Um, and again, not to crap on Bruno Fernando, but like let's call it what it is. Like if you were to sit there and go, oh, the Celtics traded Dennis Schroeder, but they traded him for Daniel Tice, like that's not the flashiest looking trade or a trade that you would think, well, Schroeder doesn't really match up to Tice's skill set or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you would have thought the Celtics could have maybe got more
The
back for a guy
way
like Schroeder.
the way I
But
look at that though, just real quick, is like that we knew that there was a chance they weren't gonna get a first round pick. Like,
mhm, yeah,
maybe they get like another point guard back, and that's fine. But like, I really don't care if we don't get a first round pick for Schroeder.
no, I yeah
Like
could have given a crap less.
like
Like
they got rid of him. They don't desperately need him. They got rid of him. They got a
mhm,
guy that players are happy to have back. Like,
seems like it.
it
Yeah.
could have been worse. It could have been a second round pick. Like,
Mhm. Well,
that
that
would
was the
probably mean
thing.
nothing. Sorry, I had an itch on my foot. You saw my camera moving there. Um, Jeez, this itch.
Well, I was gonna say the
I am struggling tonight with burping,
you are falling
itching my
apart in
feet.
it. The thing I
Like,
was gonna say is
I
I
don't
did
know.
see a report. I don't know what the players involved were, but there was a report out there after the Tice trade went down that apparently the Celtics or the Lakers once again called up the Celtics asking about Schroeder, and I think it was they wanted to give up. It might have been a second round pick and like minimum salary veterans, which I don't know what that would have been. I meant to look at the Lakers roster to try to figure out what that could have meant, but like again, the more I said, the more I thought about it afterwards. In the moment, again, like I said, I saw the Tice trade, and I'm like, oh, they didn't need to bring Daniel Tice back. Like, he doesn't really move the needle for me. In a larger scale, though, it does make some sense. I mean, when they acquired Derek White, you're sitting there going, okay, well, the Celtics now have Smart, White. They had Schroeder at the time, and Pritchard. You weren't going to run 4 point guards out there, or, try to put guys at point guards and shooting guards. They needed some more size. So it's like, all right, Tice brings that. He's a guy that can guard the 3, 4, and 5. So like and again, like you said, it's a known commodity. It's a guy that Brad Stevens clearly likes to bring him back again. It's a guy that all the players on the roster seems like. Well, that was a big thing too for me. Is you saw it after White's first game. Tatum talked about how much he liked White being here and how he fit in immediately. Same thing with Tice. Like obviously, it's a guy that fits in well. Tice is a guy, same thing as White. He's under tenure for at least 3 more years, could potentially be 4 with a club option in 2024-25 season. The other thing I saw people talk about is if you want to go and get a superstar next year, if you want to bring a Beal type guy in or maybe make a trade for somebody, maybe Tice is a guy you move because he can add up or the salaries can add up. Maybe now Al Horford, I saw his name become, maybe he's a guy that gets moved next season because Tice is here and he can kind of fill in for Al Horford's spot there. So Tice gives the Celtics a ton of options, more so than you would have thought, like I thought at least, when they originally acquired him. The other funny thing I saw too is this is from Brian Robb on Twitter. Kind of interesting, the last 2 deadlines with Daniel Tice. The 2021 trade deadline, the Celtics traded Daniel Tice at 2:59 p.m., of course, to the Bulls. And then this trade deadline, they acquired him at 2:59 from Houston. So just kind of funny thing there. Tice himself didn't even expect the trade to go down. He said, I think he was paraphrasing here, but was like shocked that he got reacquired by the Celtics, but was happy obviously to do so. So like I said, that kind of, again, that's a big thing that I feel like not a lot of people are talking about. It seems like they brought in 2 guys at the Celtics. And again, we've talked about this before. It seems like it's, with the NBA, you want to appease your star players, get guys that Brown and Tatum like to play with. It seems like Tice is the type of guy like that. White, they played with in the Olympic thing last year. He was on that team with Brown, Tatum, and Smart. So that's a big move, I think, too. And like I said, Tatum was incredibly high praise for him in his first game. The Celtics clearly seem to think White's a guy they can go to. I think they played him 19 minutes in the final 19 minutes of the game in his first game with the Celtics, so clearly fit in right away. And like I said, he's been good for him. He's done everything I feel like that you could have hoped for him to do. He's like I said, can score a little bit, not a ton. He's not like a knockdown shooter type of guy, but moves the ball well, plays great defense. He's a guy that everywhere you listen and everybody you listen to and you read seems to be a guy that wants to, give the ball up first and make guys around him better. So that obviously fits in with Brown and Tatum and stuff like that. So like you said, Brad Stevens had the microscope on him first trade deadline. The first move, you sit there and go, okay, this is a deal. It's nothing too crazy. There's more stuff that's going to come. And then he hits a home run with White and Tice. Like I said, not the flashiest, sexiest move on paper, but a move that can help you in the long run. So it's a deal that, is not going to be looked on, I feel like, too poorly maybe than some other moves that maybe could have been made. Like if they moved Schroeder for, like you said, a draft pick and a couple of like stiffs that were going to sit on the end of the bench, like, and then you maybe would have sat there and went, okay, well, that's not a deal that you really get the most for Dennis Schroeder from. That would have probably been looked at as that was a salary dump. They didn't really get anything back in return. But now that you have Tice, it kind of, like I said, it gives you more options. It's another body out there that can go out there and give you something on the floor, rather than some guys that, like I said, some veteran minimum guys that who knows who that even would have been.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of bench guys, they probably could have gotten away with keeping Fernando to fill one of those
5 bench spots.
They got 3 left now with Sam Hauser getting a standard contract, Luke Cornett coming back. Was he with the main Celtics or was he a free agent?
He was. It was weird. I was talking to a buddy of mine at work because I didn't know the same thing either. And real quick on the roster spot stuff, I know you said they have 3. The article I read yesterday talked about them converting Sam Hauser's 2-way contract into a standard contract. Same thing with Cornett. Apparently, that only works for 1 roster spot, so they still have 4, which makes no sense to me, or 4 available. I don't know how, like I said, contracts and salaries and everything in the NBA and trades, it never makes any sense. But the article I read said because Hauser, I'm trying to remember how the hell it worded it. Something along the lines of because he was converted from a 2-way contract to a standard, it only counts as 1. Cornett's bounced around. He's had a couple 10-day contracts with Cleveland and Milwaukee this year. I don't think he ever played with Maine. I think he was just there but never got in. So maybe that's how that factors in too. But yeah, I mean, Cornett's a guy that had some success last year for the Celtics. He's a guy that, isn't going to get a ton of minutes. He played last night in the blowout. Hauser's going to be looked at as kind of the scorer off the bench that they need. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter. Again, it's going to have to be, he's going to have to get minutes, and then they're probably going to have to go into the buyout market with some guys that might become available.
I want Goran Dragic and Isaiah Thomas. At this point, they would have signed Isaiah Thomas already. I
Yeah,
don't think
absolutely.
they will do it.
Yep.
I don't know why at this point. Like, what's stopping you? But something behind the scenes, I think. I don't know why.
Apparently, Stevens has met with him. I saw that the other day on Twitter that they've had. I think he was asked by Toucher and Rich, and Stevens said that they've had discussions, but nothing has obviously come to be.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see. Obviously, nothing's come out about Marcus Smart yet, and how much time he's going to miss, if any, other than this game tonight. Well, of course, the All Star break is coming up, so that'll help Smart out. But I'm curious if he has to miss an extended amount of time. Celtics aren't a team that has been in on Dragic. I've seen he's Milwaukee was a team interested. I think I thought I saw the Lakers were interested in
Yeah, I
maybe
haven't
bringing
seen the
him in,
Celtics.
of course. But I mean, if the Celtics, I would be down to get Dragic. I would be down to get Isaiah Thomas. It's probably not going to happen. The other two names that have come up, Gary Harris in Orlando could get bought out. He's an interesting one. Kind of similar play style of Jaylen Brown, a guy that can play, the two guard, also can play the wing. Tyreek Evans, a guy that just got reinstated by the NBA. He missed some
Oh,
time. They were suspended from the league for, I think, drug use
like
or,
2 years.
yeah, performance enhancers. But I mean,
What
he's a
the
guy
hell
that
did he do to get 2 years? Did he like inject elephant blood into him? Like what the hell? Like
I think it
what
was
did
just
he
PEDs. I don't know exactly
like
what, but
something illegal? Like
I think
something
he
from
was.
an alien species? Like
I don't know. I
two
think he
years?
was big
Holy
steroids.
smokes.
Not as I don't think as crazy as what's going on with Matt Harvey. Just throw a
Maybe he
baseball and
just
made it in
maybe he
there.
just maybe he just showed up looking like one of those crazy bodybuilders that has like
Jacked out of his mind.
biceps that look like I don't even know, they
Balloons.
just look yeah, like
Yeah.
messed up balloon animals.
Mhm.
Nothing against bodybuilders, just saying you guys look kind of crazy. But you
If
do
there's any
you, and
listening.
you guys do that for competition. You probably make money off of it, so that's
Hmm.
dope. I'm just saying it looks a little crazy. I don't look like that.
Yep.
It's different. Um, but yeah, Dragic would be cool. Like I don't know, I feel like there's other names that could pop up in the future. Maybe Harris is one of them. I don't
Hmm.
really know anything about Gary Harris, so I'm not going to speak on it. But
He was
I
solid
saw
in
I saw
Denver.
Bembry. Bembry was one of the guys that got picked up. He got picked up by
Yep.
the Nets for the
No,
buyout
Brooklyn.
market. Yeah,
No, I think
but
Milwaukee got him. He got waived by Brooklyn, I thought.
oh yeah, that might be it. Yep.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
Milwaukee
I think
has
you're
him
right.
now. So that might take them out of Dragic if they were in on him. But no, Harris is a guy, like I said, shooting guard type of guy, can come in, score for you a little bit. He's had it down last couple of years, was pretty good in Denver, but I mean, I feel like he's a guy that wouldn't cost too much for you. Like I said, Tyreek Evans interests me because I don't know what the interest in him's going to be across the league. Like I said, I think it was PEDs he got suspended for 2 years. I might be wrong. It might have been something worse. Um, but yeah, I mean, 2018-19 with Indiana, played 69 games, nice. Averaged 10 points, shot the ball pretty well, 35% from deep. 2 years before that, or a year before that, he averaged 18 or 19, excuse me. The website's glitching out. But I mean, he's again, veteran presence, guy that probably will come in, know his role. I can't imagine he's gonna, be too much of a head case just being able to get back out there and play basketball. I'm probably appreciate that, I'd have to think. Um, Obviously Isaiah Thomas is the dream one, but I don't think that's going to happen. If it, like you said,
It's
if it
another morale
hasn't
move too.
already happened, exactly, it's another morale move. And then Dragic, I think he's kind of the big fish right now. He'll probably end up going to a team like the Lakers or um, like I said, maybe Milwaukee's out now that they have Bembry, but he's a
Yeah.
name to keep an eye on too. Again, I think he becomes more of a possibility if Marcus Smart has to miss some time, and then you have a definite need for a backup point guard. Then you could see Dragic's name maybe become more available, or
Yeah.
just the Celtics might have some more interest in him than maybe they originally have right now. Because I don't even know if they've really checked in on him or not. I don't think he's been
Yeah.
one of the names. They've been one of the teams that have been linked to him that at least I've seen across Twitter.
Yeah. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for basketball. The Celtics are losing by
Mm,
3 in the fourth quarter right now to the Pistons. I just realized I do not like the Pistons uniforms. They do not look good. They look fine up close, but like from a distance, I don't like them. Change them up.
okay.
Just an observation.
Final thought.
One last thing to float out for anybody who didn't see this. 6 hours ago, just saw this now. Report several people close to Tom Brady in Foxborough doubt that he is actually finished, per Mike Giardi. So just floating that out there, just food for
All
thought.
right.
I'm starting to feel that way more and more too.
I don't
Like
know where he would
this
go. Is the
this would
one
just that would
thing.
just be such a hilarious prank.
Mm.
By Brady, like, haha, I just retired, JK, haha, coming back. Um,
Watch Kelly Olynyk drain a 3-pointer right in Daniel
revenge
Tyson's
game.
face.
Revenge game.
That was
Maybe they'll
nice.
fight each other. Um,
Oh, real quick, I just saw it in the comments. Matt, I don't think, no, I don't think the Celtics have a free throw problem. I would like them to hit more free throws. It would be nice. Um, but I mean, I don't know. Free throws are such a weird thing. You have guys that
Yeah.
can knock them down like it's nothing, and then guys that stand there and can't, like, couldn't hit a free throw with their life depended on it. So, and then I think that's something that can get knocked out or worked on, obviously, easier than other things. So I think right now there's no need to worry about the Celtics free throw woes. I think they'll figure something out.
We're not going to get into a big Brady discussion, but I'll make my prediction on if Brady comes back. It'll be during the season or next season. With the Bucks
To where?
potentially, well, with the Bucks, I don't think he'll. There's a chance he'll want to stay in Florida. I think if
Mm-hmm.
he goes somewhere else, I think he'd love to go to San Fran. But apparently, him and Kyle Shanahan
Oh,
have
that's right.
talked
I did.
before and
Yeah.
aren't on the same wavelength in terms of philosophy. So I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
that would work. But
Did you
I mean,
hear
if he
what the
wants to
report
stay in
was?
Florida, he could go to Miami. I don't know. Could go crazy and go play for Miami and piss off Patriots fans. Um, just throwing it out there, just goofing. What were you gonna say?
I said, did you hear what the rift between him? This is a friend of mine at work was telling me this last night. Did you hear what the rift was between him and Shanahan when he met with the 49ers about the philosophy and stuff like that? What Brady was
No,
doing?
but real quick, I think part of the reason he retired too, a little bit, is because he doesn't like Arians. So just
I
saying.
think that was 100% of the reason why he retired. I feel like he wanted Arians out of there. When they said he was coming back, then I think Brady was like, well, fuck, now I have to
He
get out of
wants
here.
Leftwich. I think he wants Leftwich.
I think so too. No, the real quick thing I was going to say, but I don't know how, because I don't know where this report came from. Like I said, a buddy of mine was just telling me, but apparently when Brady met with Shanahan and the Niners,
Yeah, I
talking
like
about,
I remember seeing that, but I didn't remember the exact details. I just know they weren't like
Mhm.
on the same page,
I
which is
think
why I was
Brady
doing this.
was busting his balls about his play calling in the Super Bowl
Yeah,
with the
that's
Falcons. So
right.
I think Shanahan was a little pissy
Turned
about
off,
that, and that may have killed relations there. But like I said, I don't know
which
how
is
true that report is,
hilarious.
but that's yeah.
That's
I feel like that's
hilarious.
like typical Brady being kind of a scumbag.
And with the Miami thing, I just thought of some people seem to think the like you really picked that guy over me thing he said before last season on whatever podcast or whatever the hell
Mm-hmm.
thing he was on was talking about Tua. So if
Mm-hmm.
he could go to Miami and play over Tua, that would just be like a personal victory for him, maybe. And
It
like,
would be
I mean, Giselle wouldn't hate that if she could stay in Florida. Like,
true.
I think Giselle factors into these decisions too, 100% in the family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anything else in his personal life that could factor in as well, I don't know. Um, but there's also still a chance he gets into the crypto more. He gets into Brady brand heavy. He stays up with TB12. I don't know if he's gonna be as big of a pliability guy. Maybe he starts eating real food. The funniest tweet
Mm-hmm.
after his initial retirement was Coley Mick from Barstool saying, "I can't wait for you to try real food, dude. You're gonna love it." No,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't even say real food. It's even funnier that he just said food because
Yeah,
like
in general.
his diet is so crazy that he's like acting like he's never actually eaten food because he just eats such a crazy diet. He hates tomatoes. I hate tomatoes too. That's something we
I'm
have in
not a tomato
common.
guy. Yep.
Very good at football. Hate tomatoes. Just I just don't have 7 Super Bowls.
True.
That's all we lack in common.
It's a big
Um,
difference. Yeah.
yeah, true. It's just a fact. Um,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's just a floater. We're not gonna get into a huge discussion about it, but just a floater. Food for thought
Mm-hmm.
as we wrap up the podcast. Keep you stipulated, maybe keep you up at night. Um
Keep
uh
the brain
that has
juices
been
flowing.
episode 82. Episode 83 will be on schedule next week around the same time, 7:15 or so. The Dion Branch episode. That should be fun. Dion Branch
83.
83. He wore 83, didn't he?
He wore 84.
84. Sorry. Damn
Welker
it.
was
Wes
83.
Welker. Wes
There you go.
Welker. I don't know why I was thinking 83, like
Wrong
maybe he
Patriot
wore it
receiver.
before Walker. Sorry. Sorry.
Dion Branch helped the Patriots win a Super Bowl. Wes
He
Welker did
did.
not.
He did. Wes Walker did not. Pain. Um, Wes Walker has a job in the NFL now.
He does. He's the wide receiver
He
coach for
does.
the 49ers, isn't he?
Yeah, or the
Maybe
Dolphins,
Brady
one of the
goes
two.
out there because of that.
Maybe he wants to be a big Wes or small Wes because he's
He's
not very
such a
tall.
scumbag move, though, for him to knock Garoppolo out of San Francisco just to take his job.
Yeah, and I mean, you
Such a
can't
dick
hate
move.
that if not really. Like they're gonna trade Garoppolo
I'm just
probably or
saying,
release
that's
him.
what I mean. If Garoppolo leaves there, they're like, oh, we're gonna take the future with Trevor Lance, and then 8 weeks in,
Trey
here comes
Lance.
Brady or Trey Lance, excuse me. Um, And then like 6 or 7 weeks in, Brady comes walking through the door. Girl, it
They
doesn't
can
matter where
afford
Garoppolo.
they can afford to let Trey Smith
True.
marinate a little more, I think. He wasn't great. He had
Did you say
moments,
Trey
but he
Smith?
wasn't great.
Have we
I said Trey
butchered this kid's
Lance.
name? Or did
Did
you? I
I
think you
say
said
Trey Smith?
You
I don't
did, I
think I
think.
did. Maybe I
It's time
did.
to end the show. We've butchered
I
his
mess
name
up.
twice now in a span
I
of.
mess up a lot. It's okay.
Yep.
It happens. I'm human.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, episode 82 in the books. Just over 2 hours here. Thank you so much for listening. We got really good viewership and downloads, and a lot of viewers in the streams, especially on Twitter, in particular. So thank you so much. We're loving this new platform. More viewers, more people coming in. Um, we love it. We talked about it last week. We want to keep things interesting, not do the same thing for too long. We like to, upgrade our operation here if we can, and I'm glad we did. Um, yeah, so it's awesome. Please keep listening if you're new. Please follow us on any of our platforms. If you don't, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike_Cratty. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. And you can follow the show at Sal and Cratty Pod on Twitter. Throw Salvaggio and Cratty Sports into the search bar on TikTok, and you'll find us there. We're still chasing 900. It's been a struggle. Help us get there, maybe. You can find us on a number of different platforms outside of this if you're watching. If you want to listen after the fact or are listening after the fact, Spotify, Megaphone, Apple Podcasts, the Full Press Coverage app. We got Pocket Casts, Google Podcasts. I might have already said that. Short term memory loss hit me here. Um, Couple other different ones you could find if you look hard enough. If you're on a platform different than that, go check it out. Follow the Full Press Coverage Twitch account. Pretty new. We're trying to get some followers there. Subscribe to the YouTube. Turn on notifications there. Like any of the Full Press pages, Full Press NFL, Full Press NHL, the regular Full Press, whatever. On Facebook, give them a like. And check out if you're on the app or on the website. Check out the other Full Press content. You're looking for any new podcasts, listen on the way to work or whatever, at the office, whatever, in your free time, check it all out. There's a
Do it
lot
all.
going on in the Full Press world. Check it out. A lot of really intelligent people, a lot of dedicated, passionate people. We love being a part of this. Got to show some appreciation in our second live episode.
Absolutely.
It'd be rude not to.
Hmm.
But we'll see you next week for episode 83, not the Dion Branch episode, the Wes Walker episode.
Yep.
Plenty to talk about there. Looking forward to it. Talk to you then. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people. And we'll talk to you soon.